It's the True Penny Show with your host, James True Penny.
Hello and welcome to the True Penny Show. My name is James True Penny. This is my show, and today we are looking at New Japan's Why Did We Even Bother in Sapporo, Hokkaido Prefecture Sports Center. Sorry, I was not a fan of this show, but neither was Christy, and she's here to talk about it with me. So, cue up 3 hours of misery. How you doing, Christy?
Not 3 hours. I like the second night. Fine.
An hour and a half of misery.
It's really funny because usually I'm the one ranting about stuff like this and really angry. And now you're the one very angry.
Occasionally. But it is just...
We'll get to it.
Yeah, the theme issue is, like, we've literally just done a 4-hour podcast about the youth of this company and how they're going to be the driving force forward. And 2 weeks ago, they essentially buried all their ghosts. And then on this show, they managed to bury everybody under the age of 30. So, yeah. But we'll take it step by step and not rush the disappointment.
Everyone's really excited.
Ben is.
Oh, right.
But hi, Ben. I hope you're enjoying this. I hope you enjoy listening to today's show. Anywho, that's Ben Spindler of Ben Spindler of the Random Wrestling Review. He's an awesome show. You should go listen to. Anywho, we were indeed at Hokkaido Prefectural Sports Center in Sapporo, Hokkaido, Japan, which is the home of Tomoya and Toru Yano, who were in the opener against Shoma Kato and Tomoyuki Honma. Tomoya is an independent wrestler and also works for the prefecture as a tourist official. And he is a fairly accomplished wrestler. Appeared for DDT last year, tagging with Toru Yano. And they put in a very good performance against Shoma Kato and Tomoyuki Honma, who seemed hard done by over this weekend, which is fair enough because he was. Yeah. But they found a use for him. Let's leave it at that. Christy, your thoughts?
I have to be honest, I didn't watch these.
That's okay. I could understand.
I was like, Honma's in them. They've got Young Lions. They've got a guy I don't know, and they've got Yano. So I was like, I'll skip it.
You just spent the last 3 minutes off air explaining to me how Chaos are your boys, and you didn't watch a Toru
Not
Yano.
I like Yano just fine, but his sense of humor is like I've been watching for like 6-7 years now. I get this stick. I get it. It's fine.
Okay, then let us move on to the opening match of the card. Zack Sabre Jr. defeats Yuji Nagata, 7 minutes and 56 seconds. Zack Sabre Jr. said to Chris Charlton at the end of the show, by gum, 55 years old. He's had his Weetabix today, hasn't he? Which, for those of you who are not from the United Kingdom in the 80s, was an advertising campaign for Weetabix breakfast cereal. Have you had your Weetabix this morning? Because it was packed full of carbohydrates and would send you on your day. Because, you know, we have to dress up.
I don't know why I know that.
I don't know. Maybe Zack Sabre Jr. is just absorbed into your being after all this time.
No, I'm pretty sure I knew it before I even was introduced to Zack Sabre Jr. So I'm like, how maybe a TV show or
Indeed,
something.
Possibly. But yes, Yuji Nagata putting in an sterling performance, thoroughly enjoyable. Of course, the story behind this was, of course, Yuji Nagata wrestled Bryan Danielson on AEW TV not long ago. Zack Sabre Jr. was having none of that. Whatever you can do, I can do better, sunshine. And he beats Nagata in 7 minutes and 56 seconds. I'm going to see if I can find the Bryan Danielson Yuji Nagata match and see how long that one lasted whilst you talk lyrical about this match and explain your thoughts, Christy.
Of course. Well, I'm not sure Nagata was supposed to be his opponent for this one. I have a feeling Zack was angling for someone else, which didn't happen, as we can tell. This is really weird, by the way, because James is not even reacting, so I'm just talking to myself.
I'm sorry, I turned my microphone off so you didn't hear my keyboard clicking. I thought that was more professional of me.
So I think he was wanting to wrestle Okada on this show. and it's turned into Nagata, which isn't a horrible prospect, but not Okada. Also missing Fujita. Normally he'd be out there with Zack, but poor Fujita had nose surgery. Not sure if you were aware, James.
I did not know that he had no surgery. What did
this
he
is
done?
why you follow them on Twitter.
I did, yeah, but I don't like. I do follow him on Twitter. That doesn't mean I follow about 2,000 people on Twitter. I'm not necessarily seeing all of them.
This is why I only follow 300, and I have like a separate list with all the wrestlers, so I can see what the fuck they're up to. Apparently, Fujita has been wrestling with problems in his nose, whereas he couldn't breathe properly. So he had surgery to correct all that. And he's now recovering.
Oh, we wish him well.
Yeah, but you know what that means? That guy was that good, and he wasn't even physically 100%.
Yeah, couldn't actually get the wind in him. So, as they would say. So that's going to be intriguing. It'd be like super speedy when he gets back.
Yeah.
So my research does tell me that Bryan Danielson took 15 minutes and 21 seconds to put away Yuji Nagata.
So Zack's better.
Zack Sapporo is at least 7 minutes better than Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, that's how that works.
That's a horrible thought. It's like a bedroom performance. He lasted 7 minutes longer. Yes, carry on.
You know, if that actually worked that way, then wrestlers would have to consider, do I want shorter matches or do I want longer matches? If I have really short matches, apparently I'm better. But if I have long matches, people will like me more.
Tanahashi said that one year about, like, I think, was it Kenny went 40 minutes with Okada and Tanahashi went 32. And Tanahashi said, well, I guess Kenny's 8 minutes better. And I'm like, well, that's not how it works. Surely you're better than he is because you...
Well, apparently that's how.
Yeah, well, they both lost, I suppose. So yeah, that would be the reason. Yeah, that makes sense now. But yes, I suppose
that would make the guy who has the 15-minute belt the best one. Not sure I agree on that.
No.
Anyway,
we'll move on. We
Zack
have that yet to torture ourselves with.
Zack talked about the winner of Naito and SANADA as well in this match, which is that we all think he's heading for.
Yes.
That title.
But he also talked about the New Japan Cup.
He did. A lot of people talked about the New Japan Cup.
Yeah, but there's an edge to him when he talks about the New Japan Cup, as that's been his baby, and he's won 2, and in not back to back, but very close together, and no one else has won 2 in a very long period of time because that tournament's not particularly old. He's kind of like the master of that tournament. So, because he's either been quarter-finalist or semi-finalist, I think, or finalist, but like ever since he's been in New Japan. And, there's always that, I'm the best tournament wrestler in New Japan, which he is, because he's won more tournaments in general than other people have. So, though I suppose Okada's won 3 G1s, and Tanahashi...
Okada's not a New Japan wrestler anymore.
No, he's not. Up until this point. Up until this afternoon. Yeah. I
do think it's interesting, the New Japan Cup, but because these 2 days felt very much like normally you'd see people build up storylines, like I'm going to wrestle you. I didn't feel that was the case here. The juniors very much did.
Yeah.
But the heavyweights were clearly just waiting for the New Japan Cup.
This set up Best of Super Juniors far better than it set up the New Japan Cup.
Yeah.
Interesting thought. I'd round out today. There is a horse race in Japan called the G1.
Oh.
And it ran today and was run by a British rider.
Congratulations.
I can't remember her name. Yeah, but there you go.
Well, I did think that was interesting. Like, I think a lot of guys were mentioning the New Japan Cup, but not so much anyone they wanted to face. So I think New Japan is going to use the New Japan Cup to set up all the storylines.
I would say so, because that's what they did last year. There was a lot of stuff that went on in the New Japan Cup last year. We started that in 2 weeks. So the next couple of days, you should look out for more announcements from New Japan Pro Wrestling. So let's just move on, though, to the second match. House of Torture and Narita Yoshinori Kanemaru and Yujiro
This was not
Takahashi.
the worst House of Torture match.
There was 3 House of Torture matches on this card, and this was possibly the worst.
No,
Mm,
because the end result here didn't matter.
yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, just looking at from our friends at Cage Match, they gave it the second. That is the worst according to them, but they're looking purely at match quality and not storyline moving forward. But again, essentially nothing happened in this match. It was pretty much a waste of time.
Yeah.
Which arguably a lot of House of Torture matches are, and nothing happened.
Yeah, but to be fair to House of Torture, most of these kind of matches are a waste of time.
True. I mean, it's especially, and no offense to Ollie Bolton, who's lovely.
And really good.
Yeah, and really good, but he's got no direction at the minute because he's a rookie and therefore he's of, to be blunt, little importance yet. And Raisuke Taguchi and Natogi Makabe have no particular direction, so therefore, yeah.
Yeah, the story is House of Torture is gonna House of Torture.
Yes, and that isn't necessarily what we want to see all the time. So yeah, that was that, really. So yeah, it happened. Definitely happened. Arguably the rot set in here. But we'll move on. Kazuchika Okada, Tomohiro Ishii, and Yoshihashi alongside Hiroki Goto and Toru Yano. They defeated the United Empire lineup of Callum Newman, Francesco Akira, Greta Khan, and
Was
Jeff
Goto
Cobb.
in there? I don't think he was.
He was at ringside.
Oh yeah.
He accompanied.
Oh
them.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yes, I didn't say he was in the ring. I said accompanied
Oh,
by.
okay. I misheard.
Yes, we had a full lineup of your chaos there. 10 minutes and 55 seconds. And it was fun. It was kind of like the last 2 were for the Chaos guys in their current form. And we'll see what happens next with them, I guess. The trouble is I don't see a leader coming out of them. And this may sound daft, except Yo. Because he's the only one shown any leadership qualities whatsoever just because he's different than the others. And actually truly believes in chaos.
I also feel like that's because Okada's still there.
Yeah.
Like, why would guys like Ishii and Goto, who have already deferred to Okada, go, I'm going to lead in the last 2 days that you're in the company? That's a Yo kind of attitude. Like, that makes no sense.
No. So, yeah. So they need someone. Or someone's got to come from the racks. Yoshihashi is the obvious choice because he's the only one young enough.
And Okada likes him the best anyway.
Yeah, of course he does. And that's the thing. There's your growth story because he's gone from being a bit crap to actually quite good to winning championships.
To lead. The poor guy would have a meltdown if he had to lead.
That's the trouble. It's like when Nakamura left, his words were, "Look after Yoshihashi for me,"
and they didn't.
And they really didn't.
Until Goto showed up, they
had to find a childminder for him. So yeah, his possibility he might have a nervous breakdown if he's crushed. That's a story to tell. Crushed under the weight of leadership.
Responsibility.
Responsibility, just quivering in a corner as Goto's like, "What's wrong with you?"
I had to choose who to send out.
Yes. So I don't know. We might find out sooner rather than later.
I hope
Anywho, what did you think of this particular matchup? Because it was kind of actually highlighted how much Chaos have come along as a unit in the last 14 months because they never used to wrestle like this. After Nakamura left, they were a bunch of individual wrestlers who worked together. And then in the last year or so, they've kind of become a team again and have started attacking tag matches like this, which they never used to do. So I like it a lot. And I like, it's a shame that we're not going to see all of it. But, what can we see? What do you think? What do you think of this particular match? I'll stop ranting now.
No, it's okay. You're just getting ready for the next couple of matches.
Breathing deeply.
I like this match. Chaos is. I have a lot of factions I like and a lot of guys I like, but Chaos is one of the ones I fell for at the very beginning. because I talk about the Yoshihashi camera show a lot. New Japan used to have these Yoshihashi and Kushida cams where both of them would carry cameras around and film their faction. Well, Kushida didn't really have a faction, but Honsai, he would film Honsai, especially Tanahashi. And just watching how Chaos acted around each other and responded towards each other, I really started to like those guys. So from that moment on, I've been like, Chaos might not be my favorite faction, but they're a bunch of my favorite guys. So seeing them get emotional about Okada leaving, just, yeah. Not as emotional as I thought the show before this one was, though. It kind of felt like a foregone conclusion at this point.
I think they've peaked, and I think as well.
Okada's cried his eye out in that.
I think as well is we know he's pretty much going to AEW, and that means, well, it's not the end then, is it? Because that means come Forbidden Door, we'll be seeing something again that we've not seen in a while. So it's like, AEW means it's not forever. If it's WWE, he's gone. But if it's AEW, then he'll be back. We'll see him again in a few months' time. So, well, maybe not for a year or so, I would think. But yeah. So
that's the Chaos side. United Empire, these are the guys I like. So they did a great job at picking out the ones I don't hate. So thank you very much. Though Jeff Cobb kind of scares me now.
Oh yeah, you had interactions with Jeff Cobb.
Yeah, that was not intentional.
No.
No. We haven't talked about it, right?
This is why we need these circles we used to have on Twitter where you could have like private conversations amongst your mates. We need that back again.
Yeah, the people who are listening might not know what happened.
No, we should explain that.
I made a very innocuous tweet.
Yes, that's very true.
Asking my friends who they would rather see as leader, and I picked the ones who'd been mentioned the most.
Yeah.
So, Okan, TJP, Henare, I think.
Yeah.
And then the fourth option was someone else, because you only got 4 options. And who happened to see it? Jeff Cobb. And he replied like, "Oh, I was the first member of United Empire, and you're not going to pick me? I'm disappointed." Something like that.
Actually, he was second member of United Empire.
Well, that's not what he said.
He was wrong, because Okan was the first member of United Empire.
So that kind of terrified me, because I got a lot of guys in my mentions being, how could you forget him?
Arguably, you could go back into Rev Pro history, and I'm sure there's something back there that started United Empire first. But yes, it's Anywho, there's like, and he didn't get snitch tagged either, did you? You just happened upon it.
I'm not sure how he found it, because I didn't put his name anywhere.
There you go.
No one mentioned him, so he must have looked up like United Empire leader.
There you go, Jeff Cobb. Vanity searches United Empire. There you go.
And I hope he didn't mean any bad by it. I'm sure he just meant to.
I doubt he's possibly listening to this podcast and taking notes for all we know.
I'm sure. But just as a woman who's already faced a lot of backlash, I was like, oh my god, please no.
Not from that group of fans, definitely not.
No, anyway. Like a couple of guys could have taken it the wrong way, you know? Like, oh my god, how dare you?
Yeah, but no, just...
Luckily, it was kind of okay. The worst that I got was, what the fuck? Why would you not choose Jeff Cobb? I'm like, because he wasn't mentioned. I'm sorry.
Did you not read this? Yesterday, I can't remember who it was, but somebody was complaining. That was it. Jimmy, who I have to go look up on Twitter, but Jimmy, long-time wrestling writer I follow, had highlighted a video of someone complaining about they didn't know who Yun Akiyama was.
Oh, yeah.
I replied to that tweet. So he's complaining that they don't show enough videos explaining who people are, whilst watching a video of someone explaining who somebody is.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well,
But
that's the
yes,
opposite. That's not looking up stuff you should
no,
look up. And Jeff
no.
Cobb was looking up stuff he maybe shouldn't have looked up. Like, I wasn't
He was looking
insulting
up
him.
wholesome stuff, let's say that.
Yeah, he was. And he saw
Yes.
me and I was like, I have to interact with her. She's so wholesome.
Indeed, you are.
Yeah,
He never swears ever.
never. I'm
Never.
delightful.
Yes. That's not the word you normally start that sentence with.
Of course it is. I would
I
never
am,
swear.
yes. But anywho,
Yeah.
shall we move on?
Yeah, last mention from
Oh,
that
yes.
match. The commentary mentioned Akira keeping an eye on Show and Desperado, which makes me feel like he's going to be involved in Super Juniors.
I would think so. Yeah. I'm wondering, though, if Despi's due a long run into New Japan Cup territory. But we'll talk about that
I was
later.
going to mention that in the Desperado match coming up. Yeah.
Yes, we'll talk about that in a bit. LIJ, Bushi, Hiromu Takahashi, Shingo Takagi, Tetsuya Naito, and Yota Tsuji went up against just 5 guys, Duki, Sanada, Taichi, Taka Michinoku, Yui Uemura, for the 473rd time this year. But that's what it feels like. They have been
For
married.
you, because you don't appreciate these guys.
I didn't say, did I say I didn't appreciate these guys? No, I did not. Taka Michinoku, living legend. I did not say I don't appreciate these guys, but they have literally wrestled each other in one format or another every day there's been a show since January the 4th and since before that. So it does feel like they've been at it a long while. They have got very good at it, though. That's the key thing. You know, you watch some teams. We discussed this when we talked about United Empire and War Dogs. The first 3 matches were bloody awful, but they managed to figure it out in the end. But these guys know what they're doing. So it was entertaining from that particular point of view, and I enjoyed it, and it did set up the next day very, very well. And I liked Hiromu joining in on Shingo's "Is it time?" chant, which was funny.
Yeah.
But yes, it's like, oh, you like Shingo.
Of course he likes Shingo.
You like Shingo.
Who doesn't like Shingo? Even Taichi likes Shingo.
Bit too much, possibly.
How could you love someone too much? No.
Well, we find out how much they love each other the following day. Yeah. Anywho, what's your thoughts on this match?
The highlight of this was something completely unrelated to the wrestling.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm referring to?
No, go on.
I got a literal mention by the commentary team.
Oh, you did, yes, because of the tournament have hair.
Again. Only
Yes.
this time they literally mentioned not my name, but my Twitter name.
Handle, yes.
Not my handle so much as the name I use. Smark Infested Waters.
Yes.
Which was cool, because the last time I was not complaining, I was like, they didn't mention me directly. This time they mentioned me directly.
Maybe they have been listening to our
They
podcast.
have, because Charlton liked my tweet about it. So not so much the podcast as they have been paying attention to my Twitter.
Walker, we love you. We think you're great. However, can I just say it's Bullet Club, no the. Thanks.
Well, you could ask him to join your podcast, because he does do that.
Hey, Walker, if you want to come on the podcast. It's like, if I get a DM in like 24 hours time, it's like, what are we going to do? Yes, but I'm free next weekend if you've got nothing to do. We have a show in the bag next week. Myself and Marcus Green will be talking Clate. So, Walker, if you want to come on the show, feel free. And Chris. Chris is lovely. Yeah.
I do enjoy those two. They also interact on Twitter a lot. I get a lot of retweets from Walker.
Yes. And
nice.
You missed out on the bear discourse in the opening match.
Thankfully.
But yes, there was talk of bears, as there is
Yeah.
talk of bears in every opening match now. But yes.
And the match. Let's go back to the match.
Indeed.
Hiromu's going his crazy creative Hiromu again, which I love, because I miss that kind of Hiromu. And it feels like the moment the belt is taken from him, he reverts back to that kind of
I
guy.
don't have to be ace anymore. Yeah. You get a card is another guy like that. Sorry to interrupt you, but I completely agree with you.
Okay.
Hiromu's absolutely fantastic professional wrestler and puts together matches that are ridiculous. But you do notice an entire like sea change in him when he doesn't have to be the ace of the company and it's someone else's job. And I think that's one of the things why I think he's really enjoyed Desperado being around, is because essentially we're kind of in a twin ace situation, and as a result of that, there's a lot less pressure on him, and he can go off. They can both, because they both kind of want the same thing, which is to grow junior heavyweight wrestling. They can do it together rather than trying to do it individually, which would have been ridiculously hard work. And they set himself a task there, but now he has someone he can do it with. And I think that's kind of like, that's nice, because he doesn't have to be deadly serious main eventer all the time.
Yeah, and I think they're also both realizing that they don't have to be that serious ace all the time.
No, they don't. There is a time and place for that. Liger was like that when he was, but I mean, Liger's the greatest junior heavyweight that ever lived, and you know, he found space to do things. And if he couldn't do them in New Japan, he'd go off and do them somewhere else. You know, he did death matches in FMW because he wanted to. You know, it's not that there's very few people had the same clout as he did, if you see what I mean, in the junior heavyweight division. So, but Bushi, I think Despy and Hiromu were kind of going to that level of clout. So
yeah, I think it might also be because the ace before them was Kushida.
Yeah.
And Kushida was very straight-laced.
Yeah, I think
So
that's the thing.
If you're going to go out there and want to replace him, you're like, oh, we have to be serious.
Yeah.
And they're only now realizing that they're more popular when they're not serious and when they're all over the place and doing death matches and wrestling in bras and stuff like that.
Dancing in DDT. It was,
Yeah.
But that is the thing with Hiromu. He was so much happier winning the Iron Man DDT Heavy Metalweight Championship last year than when he won the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Like, yes, he was playing up to it for the camera, but there was a genuine smile there. It's like, and the matches he had in DDT and in New Japan, but the matches he had in DDT with that title were joyous things. He really looked like he was enjoying himself.
He just likes being creative. Just look at Fantastica Mania, what he did there.
Yeah, exactly.
He just likes being all over the place and getting to express himself in various ways and being creative, even though some people say wrestling is not art and you shouldn't compare it to that. I disagree.
It is. It's on a
canvas, that was
isn't
a
it?
huge Twitter discussion. Someone was very much convinced that you shouldn't call wrestling art because then it's like you're embarrassed about wrestling, which
No,
I do not get. Hiromu doesn't agree either, by the way.
Back in the day, I was listening to a podcast with Alex Shane. He pointed out, if we'd said wrestling was art, think of the amount of arts council money we could have had for professional wrestling in the United Kingdom. And instead, we keep insisting it's a sport, and therefore we don't get anything because sports doesn't have as much money as arts support does. And he was absolutely true at that particular time. It was a bit old carny talking. Can't imagine the grants we could have, but he wasn't wrong in that particular sense.
No.
But anywho, carry on.
Yeah, so happy Hiromu, creative Hiromu makes me happy because it's obvious he likes that the best. Sorry?
I was going to say, at the end of this match, we did have a lot of the usual standoff, which was intriguing. Did you notice anything?
I wanted to mention a lot of hair versus hair talk, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the comparison about them being reborn.
Yes.
Like, whoever was going to get his hair cut, and Josh from We Work Stiff talks about that as well. Whoever was going to get shaved bald was going to be reborn. And I also feel like Hiromu's kind of getting the chance to reinvent himself in a very similar way because he doesn't have the pressure of the belt. And I found it very interesting, and this is skipping ahead a little bit, but after his match with Doki, he mentioned, Doki, go ahead and chase for the belt. I'll see you once you have it. Which could be just another Hiromu comment, but it also kind of feels like he's stepping away from the belt for now. Like, who knows when Doki's going to get that belt? That could be years.
Yeah.
That could never happen.
Yeah, highly likely that it won't happen at the moment, but we'll see. We don't know, do we? So, I don't know if Doki steamrollers best of Super. Oh, no, if Doki just sneaks the final, just best of Super Juniors with a roll up or something along those lines, in a very un-junior way, if you see what I mean. Like, let's talk about that on the next card, but yeah. I've got visions in my head of how you could do that. So it'd be intriguing, but yeah. Have we anything else to say about this match?
Nope, that was it. I have some stuff to say about Yuya and Yota, but that can wait until the next day.
The horror. The next day. Next up, the IWGP Women's Championship was defended for the first time in quite some time on a New Japan card. Mayu Iwatani defeats Mina Shirakawa 12 minutes and 28 seconds in a bit of a thriller. It didn't get particularly much love from the Cage Cast Nice, 6.91, but considering what the next match got, 3.24, you will say actually it was pretty damn good. I actually suggested it was all downhill from here after this, but there we go.
A lot of people consider this their favorite match.
I would not. I would absolutely agree, actually. I think it was pretty good. I think it was. I mean, I've been watching Mayu Iwatani for 10 years, and she is kind of on another level at the moment. You know, I can remember this gangly kid that started in Stardom like 10 years ago when she won the Trios Championships. And she was just so much fun to watch because she clearly loved being there. And now she still loves being there, but she's got all the poise and she's still a gangly kid, but she's got all of everything you need to make it as a main event star.
Mm.
You know, and she's amazing. I love her to bits. And Shirakawa is no slowpoke either. She's very, very good. I don't watch Stardom like I used to because I just, honestly, after the Yoshihiko incident, I just lost faith in the company an awful lot, and I never really got back to it. And it kind of like broke me on Joshi for a while because Joshi, I love Joshi to bits, and I obsessed over it for a long period of time. But you have to understand how toxic Joshi used to be for the wrestlers who were involved in it, and I kind of hoped that it had gone away, and that was the ultimate story of no, it's still there. And I know it's an awful lot easier now because I've talked to people who've been in the situations in Joshi. Because after the Yoshihiko incident, Io, Shirai, and Kairi Sane took over the dojo and just made an entire wholesale changes that made it a much more fun place to be, and has apparently been a much more fun place to work ever since. But it kind of soured me on it, if you see what I mean. So I have not watched an awful lot of Stardom. I have watched a lot of Joshi, but it tends to be more Sendai Girls. It's one of the reasons why I like Glate so much is because I get, every couple of weeks, I get a Joshi match with some exceptional Joshi wrestling in. But I'd rather watch Sendai Girls or other things instead.
That reminds me of how a lot of people feel right now about WWE.
Mm.
It's like, even if it's not happening now, just knowing that happened in the past and informed everything that happened while you were watching.
Yeah.
It can be very difficult to ignore.
It is. It's like, you know, you watch those great matches from the 90s, and arguably there's never been any better wrestling matches since then. Like Minami Toyota versus Aja Kong at the Dome. That is possibly the greatest singles wrestling match I've ever seen. Maybe Akira Hokuto and Minami Toyota is maybe the best pure wrestling match I've ever seen anywhere ever. But the shit they had to go through to get to that point, and the pressure cooker they were under, you know, it's, hey, you're in a roster with arguably the 10 greatest wrestlers of all time. Go. And there's a level of toxicity in that, even though, you know, they're all good friends now, but they're all in such a high level of competition with one another to outdo each other every night. That's not healthy, you know, and it's not healthy. The way that dojo system worked is not healthy either. It's rough and tumble now, but there's an awful lot more protection for the people involved in it now, whereas back then it wasn't. And, you know, there's still kind of those kind of things that creep up every once in a while. You hear certain horror stories from certain dojos and stuff, because there's a fine line between, you know, being hard on your recruits to make them tough for the future, and just bullying people. And you have to be very, very careful with that line. Anywho, sorry to be so sad.
This is the one good match, and we're like going down memory lane of terrible things.
To the memory lane of horror and abuse. However, having said all that, Mayu Iwatani is one of the few main event wrestlers I see that actually wrestles with verve and joy when she's a champion. We were just saying about Desperado and Hiromu when they don't have a belt wrestle differently. Iwatani wrestles the same way every time I see it wrestle, which is wrestling's awesome. And she's an incredible ambassador for professional wrestling, I think. Especially with the weight she's under, because she came up with Io and Kairi, who are both no longer there. So essentially, she's had to kind of like carry that company until they got new stars. And now they've got some great new stars, and the pressure's off her a little bit. And I think she's enjoying her wrestling again. So that's really good.
Well, I wouldn't say the pressure's off her, considering what's happening to Stardom.
Oh no, up until last week.
Poor girl. I feel bad.
Yeah, she. For those of you who didn't hear the story, she was very upset that Rossi Ogawa had left the company, which you would expect, because she's been her mentor for the best part of a decade, and she basically announced that she would be leaving Bushy Road until Bushy Road said, "Actually, you can't because you're under contract with us." Which makes it all the more remarkable she retained this championship, to be honest with you. But Bushy Road know which side their bread's buttered. They're going to use her positively for as long as they possibly can. And if she goes to the new company with Rossi, we'll see, won't we? But yes, shall we get this out of the way?
Yeah, just about the match.
Oh yes, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I didn't have a lot of comments anyway. It was really, really good. I don't watch Stardom because they don't let me. And
no, I think they'll let you.
No, they won't, because they don't make PayPal an option. So.
Oh, I see. Yes, yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
But these were really good. This was the match I enjoyed the most, which is rare for me because there was no reason for me to enjoy this match the most. There was no investment. There were no characters I'm used to, no storyline for me to follow because I don't watch Stardom. So that says a lot about the other matches, I think.
Yes.
But these are they are really, really good. And as far as I know, Mina is still somewhat new. Especially compared to Mayu, and she held her own, and I think she's going to be a star if she isn't already.
She's a 5-year veteran, and she's 36. So she started incredibly late for Joshi. Yeah. And if she's that good when you started that late, then that's really cool.
Yep.
But being more mature gives you a bit of presence, I think, as well. The people
it does. She's confident.
Definitely. For those of you who are interested, by the way, as we're talking about Joshi crossover shows, Wrestle Universe announced this week that while Ganabray has decided to leave the Cyberfight organization, Michinoku Pro, Pro Wrestling 01, and Sendai Girls will now all be available on Wrestle One, on Wrestle Universe going forward. Which Meiko Satomura announced as president of the company, which means if you have a Wrestle Universe subscription, you can now catch up with everything Sendai Girls do, everything Pro Wrestling 01 do, everything Michinoku Pro do. I think there was another couple of promotions as well as Noah, as well as DDT, as well as TJPW. So you never have to leave the house ever again.
No, never.
No, that's it. You could literally watch wrestling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as well as the WWE Network being on Netflix. So essentially, that's it. There is no excuses now. The only thing you won't have access to is AEW. And then when people out say, how do we watch it? I can just say, £7 a month, sorted. Anywho, let's just move on. Oh, Christ almighty.
To the beginning of the end.
To the beginning of the end. Oh, Lordy.
Though, can I just say before you start? Oh, my cat is jumping on the desk. Move. I didn't hate.
See, even your cat doesn't like this. Your cat.
Even my cat is like, don't even begin. Don't start. Just end it now. I am the biggest Desperado fan, but I'm convinced I didn't hate this as much as you did or other people did. But go ahead. You start.
Show defeats El Desperado for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. in 16 minutes to 13 seconds, and it is just like what a miraculous waste of time for everyone involved. And it was a terrible wrestling match because it's a House of Touch match. It's going to be a terrible wrestling match. So I was not entertained. And as the thing went forward, it was just like it was disjointed. It had interference, which made it slightly more interesting, but left a load of questions answered. Then why didn't these guys come down to ringside and try and do it from the start? Why wait until 16 minutes in? There was too many plot holes in it. And it just kind of leaves Desperado, who is supposed to be smarter than Show, looking stupid. And I know babyfaces are supposed to have, be a bit more trusting. And it's like, but Desperado has done this entire thing of like, well, you can't trust me either, so I should be able to deal with you. So yeah, 16 minutes and 30 seconds, and now we get House of Torture, everything for a long time to come, and it's depressing. As much as I understand House of Torture, what they're going to do with House of Torture is perfectly reasonable as far as I'm concerned, because it means making money for the Japanese audience. I know the Japanese audience are well into them and stuff, but it's all right when it's one or two matches on a card, but this felt like it was in the entire card, and it was just depressing. So I was not a fan of this match, as you possibly can imagine. And that's not just me as a Desperado fan. I think it was just badly executed and a bad booking idea, because, again, it's like Desperado gets cheated out of the championship, and it's like that long run we was kind of expecting and hoping for to establish him as an ace in the division is gone again, and that opportunity's gone. I understand you kind of want to spread the championship around about and make new people with it, but I thought at least we'd have kind of a bit of a, you could have done that with Best of Super Juniors, and you could have had a whole month of Show being a dick. But yeah, it just seems badly timed, badly executed, and just ugh. Go on.
My turn.
Your turn.
I have conflicting feelings about this, so I'll start with why I hated it, and then get to what I didn't hate. Desperado losing. I'm like, how long has he been a champion? A month?
Yeah, exactly.
A month.
Why would you do this now?
What's Desperado done that he deserves this? Is it because Watto got injured? Is that why you're like, well, let's move on to something else? Like, I feel so bad for the guy. He has to. He's basically ace. He's shouldering all the expectations and all the pressure, but he never gets anything in return for it. He gets 1 month, and his only match for the championship that he wins is against Kanemaru. And I love Kanemaru, don't get me wrong, but that's not a title reign.
No.
It doesn't feel like a title reign. It feels like you're just shitting on him for no reason. Unless they're going to do something with him. But we'll get to that later. It just feels like you couldn't have given him 5 months? 4 months, at least? Not 1 month. And then the second point why I hated it is because people had so many expectations. The storyline idea of Desperado adopting Show and Show being forced to be in strong style and to grow as a person, that was amazing. Yeah. I know so many people were so excited for the idea of Show in strong style against his will.
Yeah.
So not only is Desperado losing, but you're losing the one thing that made this so interesting, so appealing. People were like, oh, Show? Well, if Desperado wins, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
But he didn't win. He lost. So that's what I hated about it. I do have to admit, though, I'm not as mad as a lot of people are. Because as much as I hated that for Desperado, and as much as I mourn the possibilities we could have had with Show, I think what New Japan is doing is just putting all the heat on House of Torture.
Yeah, I can understand that to an extent. But equally, that's going to be wearing as a viewer for quite some time to watch.
For what a lot of Western viewers, sure.
Yeah.
But if
I mean,
you
I
see
think
the reaction that the crowds have in Japan,
Oh no, I understand that. Yeah, I can understand it, but it's like as a fan wanting to watch wrestling matches because that's what you watch New Japan to from a Western. I don't know as it is from a Western point of view, but as plenty of Japanese fans who think the same way. It does kind of wear because it is just kind
I
of
get
like
it. I get it. I agree. It's annoying, but I think that's what New Japan is doing. So
But
I think it's going to get worse
yeah,
and not
and
better.
I also think that the trouble is as well is the faces never seem to go ahead. Like they never get ahead, and it's therefore coming to the point of like, why should I support them? Because they're just not.
That's
They're
one.
either naive or they're just not good enough. In which case, then there comes a point where fans will turn on the faces, and that's an issue for me as well.
That's one point I want to disagree with you on, though. By the way,
Mm.
about the House of Torture not being at ringside and doing it from the start.
Yeah.
It feels like that was the intention, because the moment who was it that attacked Desperado first?
It was
Kanemaru?
Kanemaru and then Taguchi. There you go. Taguchi comes and ruins everything again.
So
carry on.
No. Look, Kanemaru shows up, and who shows
Yeah.
up to help Desperado? Taguchi.
Yes.
So you've set up that if they attack Desperado, someone from Hontai is going to run in and attack him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Narita hiding under the ring until the very moment they could help Sho win the match was brilliant. Because if he'd been at ringside, Hontai could have sent someone out.
I suppose so.
This was way too late. There was no way they were going to send someone out in the 20 seconds it took Narita to
I suppose so.
help
yes.
Sho eliminate. So that's smart to me.
No,
It's really annoying for fans, but in kayfabe world, that makes sense, because otherwise, why is Hontai not at the ring?
Yeah, that's my other thing. Is like literally they've spent the last month watching each other's backs in situations like this, and then on this one, now we're not going to bother.
Yeah, because they were there. But the moment one showed up, Taguchi.
Yeah,
showed
but
up. So I do think that.
Why would you trust these people who've proven themselves to be completely untrustworthy?
Yeah, of course, but that's wrestling phase logic. It's the same reason that referees are not like, oh, I can see what's happening, and I'm not going to call this match.
I understand that, and I understand like the stoicness of trying to do one by yourself and everything like that. But it is just, it's like, yeah. Anywho, yeah. I've made my point. I'll move on.
By the way, I do think Taguchi was supposed to be Wato. I imagine.
Yes, I would have thought so.
Which then would make sense, because only Wato's directly aligned with Desperado. The rest of Hontai, not so much. And the guys who were aligned with Desperado were like Tamatonga, who's leaving and who was focused on his own stuff and who wasn't on this card. So that would make sense that only Wato's interested.
Yeah.
Last point, by the way, is Strong Style. Did you see Suzuki's tweet?
I did not see Suzuki's tweet. What did Suzuki tweet?
I'm just your Twitter correspondent at this point.
Yes, you are. Because it's like I can't keep my eye on Twitter all the time.
No, it's okay. Strong Style basically doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, okay.
Suzuki made a tweet, and Google Translate is not 100% correct, but
absolutely not. Yeah.
Based on the reactions from both Desperado and the Japanese fans, this is basically, Suzuki said, this is the end of Strong Style, and I'm leaving for a bit. So Suzuki's not going to be back in New Japan for a while.
No, he's starting, well, him and Josh Barnett are doing Bloodsport in Japan. He's pretty popular in all Japan at the moment as well, because he's been wrestling there, and of course he does a lot of US tours. Rocky Romero was retweeting his US information the other day, so I'm thinking Rocky might have something to do with that as well.
Yeah.
So he's kind of got a lot of irons in fires, and of course New Japan aren't really doing an awful lot with him because he's an older wrestler and he's kind of like break glass in case of emergency these days, isn't he?
Yeah, but the thing with the Suzuki was always you could always expect him to show up, even if it was just 1 or 2 shows. But this seems like he's officially saying, "I'm out for at least a bit," and he dissolved Strong Style, so Desperado's not completely alone.
Yeah, I would think.
On the one hand, it's going to be interesting, but I'm also kind of scared he's going to be just added to Hontai, which I don't think is a fit for him.
No, but I have a feeling
but
that
we'll see. New Japan Cup coming up.
Yeah,
anything could happen.
I think as well Suzuki would probably be better for World Tag League because that's usually when he starts showing up again.
Maybe, but this felt like a very official
end of New Japan career type deal.
Yeah, because I don't remember him ever tweeting like I'm leaving.
No.
Between
I don't. But I think as well is like his New Japan deal is unlike anyone else's. He's kind of an independent wrestler that wrestles for New Japan sometimes, because out of respect for him, they just let him do what he wants. Because I don't think he would agree to just being tied down to be this one thing. He kind of wants the option to be there because he's an incredibly creative guy and wants to do things that he doesn't get a chance to do in New Japan.
Yeah, but that makes me think that it's more serious than just because he's always had that. He's always left for for 6 months and then come back. So if he's very officially saying goodbye and dissolving Strong Style, like why would you do that if you're expecting to be back in like 5 months?
True, that's the thing. And yeah, you know, he's having a lot of fun doing independent wrestling. So from a business point of view, it's like it frees up Desperado to do different things. So
yeah, and I wanted to talk about Despy and his future more in match 1 for day 2.
Yes, we'll talk about him then.
In the positive day.
Yes.
The positive section.
We have more disasters to talk about yet before we get to the end of that. Let's move on to Evil with Dig Togo successfully defending against Shota Umino in 15 minutes and 45 seconds. This match wasn't dreadful. It was better than the previous match for actual wrestling content. But I have completely lost faith in Shota Umino because of this match. Because it's like, I don't know where to go with him anymore. Evil's evil, and he does the evil thing, and it was reasonably entertaining watching him wrestle this particular match, as it was for Shota Umino. But the trouble with Shota Umino is, and I know it's the thing like Charlton and Walker talked about it on commentary an awful lot of a man who isn't the entire product of his influences, but it also means now he seems like the choke artist. He can't get the job done despite everything, and that's I don't know what to do with him in my head. Like I don't know where to go with him, if you see what I mean. I don't know what to make of him anymore. I kind of knew what he was like when he was kind of like completely under the spell of Moxley, and now everything else has creeped into him, and it's like, you're a big ball of mush and I don't know what to do with you. You seem to be directionless, except all you want to do is win matches, which is great, but you don't seem to have the tools to do the job. And if it was like back in the day, like a Kenta Kobashi kind of slow burn losing streak for 18 months and then pull you up strapped by your own bootstraps kind of deal, that would be great, but it's been shoved in the main events and made matches for the last year and hasn't got the job done. And therefore, everything that all the heels say about him is you're getting favoritism because you're your dad's son, and you know everybody likes you because you're Tanahashi Mark II. All of that stuff rings more and more true every day. In which case, why should I support you? Because if the heels are right, if it was unfair, then fair enough. But it gets to being the point of like, why hasn't Suji got this spot? Why hasn't Imura got this spot? Why do you keep doing it when you're not winning? And I think this was worth pulling the trigger on this one because Evil's the most anti-New Japan wrestler they have, and therefore, in that sense of like, you know, being against the philosophy of the company, so Evil was just the guy to take the big win over and push him over the top, and that didn't happen again. So that's my issue with this one. Is just like it's not so much. This one isn't so much of the grind of House of Torture. This is more of the I'm more angry at Shota Umino, the evil, for just not being good enough to get the job done. So I mean that's where I am on this match. I don't think the match was particularly terrible, and there were some high points in it that were fun, but it is just big ball of mush Umino is my problem. What's your thoughts, Christy?
I like Shota.
Yes, I do. I know, and I mean I don't mean to be mean to one of your favorites.
No, it's okay. I also don't think you're mad at Shota, the guy behind the wrestler.
No, I'm not mad at him
so
as an
much
individual.
As the wrestler
the character in the way the company has presented said character.
Yeah, and that's my issue with Shota is that I'm not sure what the company is trying to do.
No.
And that might be because we have English commentary, and English commentary is very often admitted that they don't know what Japanese commentary is doing or what the company is doing. No. So it kind of feels like I need to know if this is intentional. If the company is like, we're going to completely crush Shota only to build him up in like a year.
Yeah.
Or if they're going to go with like a Naito scenario intentionally, where he wanted to be the ace, but he couldn't be. And then they turn him into something else.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then I understand where they're going. But the English commentary is just very confusing about him. Because they don't talk about him like that. They don't talk about him in a positive way. Because if that's the story you want to do, then you want to build him up.
You need to be sickeningly supportive.
Yeah, you need to be on his side. But like, this is again, they're working against him. This is not fair, or stuff like this. Like the whole thing of him having lots of different influences could be turned into a positive. Like you could say, oh look, Shota's using Tama's gunstun. There's another influence that creates him as like the vessel for whole of New Japan.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
He's the literal incarnation of New Japan's past. Everyone's putting something in him to make him better. That's the positive take. But no, English commentary is going with the negative take. Like, we don't know who he is. Like, if you don't know who he is, as the people telling the story, then how are we supposed to know who he is?
Yeah, that's the trouble. It's just like, it's not. I think if I was watching it without commentary, I probably would have a slightly different reaction to it because my eyes would prick up and go, "Oh, that's a Tama Tonga move," and I would see it as references. But also is like, I think that is the issue with me is it's just so it's too much. It's not it works when it's once in a while, but because it's every move, not all of them, but it is a good 30 to 40% of his moveset is adapted moves to other people. Then it becomes like,
well, that could be interesting.
Are you just being not original then? Yeah, that's the thing. If it's a story, then you're trying to push that story, then that's good.
Like, imagine Shota Umino taking one move from all the most influential guys in New Japan.
But that's what he's doing.
New Japan, you know?
Yeah, but it's not being presented in a particularly interesting way.
Because I don't think English commentary knows the story he's telling.
No.
And they're also very aware of what Twitter is doing.
Yeah.
So they know that this is what English talking fans are talking about. We're not sure who Shota is.
I'll be honest, I think like this, and I've not actually read that much response about Shota on my Twitter feed. It's just the way I felt.
Yeah, but you're not the only one. Like, Josh from We Work Stiff talks about this a lot. And I know that Charlton listens to their podcast. Yeah, but you're laughing. I know, because he's been on the podcast. So
yes, I mean, I've come to this conclusion independently as well. So it's fairly obvious.
And it's an obvious conclusion to come to if you're not being told what the idea is.
Yes, that's true.
Because this is supposed to be the one being fed everything, the one the company wants to succeed. Yes. Yeah. Yet two guys who are part of the company are detracting from everything he's trying to do.
Yeah.
Which would make sense if that's the point, but I don't think they know whether that's the point or not.
And I
Does
don't.
any of this make sense? I
No,
don't.
I understand what you're saying, but that's another layer of making it too complicated. Like
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
if you are gonna push him to the moon, then push him to the moon. And if you're going to push him in the Naito, Nakamura, John Cena way of getting over by being and making him annoying, turning him heel and starting again, the Cena didn't do that. I suppose Roman Reigns did it. So like, you know, Nakamura turned heel because he had to, because the fans weren't buying it, and Naito had to turn heel because the fans weren't buying it. Then if you're going to do that, then you have to kind of like make that push absolutely over the top. And this is not
And
pushing
also
over
get
the top.
commentary on board.
Oh yes, you have to get commentary on board as well. But I'm just talking about the booking, and it is like,
No, I get it. I just
yeah,
think it's all those things adding up makes for a
yeah,
disconnect for people.
yeah. That's the
If you
thing.
look at just the character, it's a guy who has a silver spoon in his mouth, but who's being pushed down by the world
Yeah.
because everyone's coming out of the bushes to attack him from behind.
Mm.
But commentary and Twitter and stuff makes more of it than maybe they intend. And
Yes.
no one on commentary is going, no guys, this is the story we're telling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that's how I feel. Maybe that's just because I'm biased towards Shota.
I think that is the thing. It's just like, I think this is the thing we discussed the other week. Is like, I'm not biased towards Shota, so maybe I'm going to be more negative towards him. But I've got energy. The energy that was in my guy, which was Ren Rita, who was my favorite out of the four newcomers, is now gone because. So I think is that this is the issue. Is like, I understand what you're saying, but he's more interesting now, but to me he's not. So therefore, it's difficult, to say the least, with these four cats that have come up in the last year, and we have more of that to play with on the next show. So let's move on. Oh God.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Take a deep
go
breath.
for it. Deep breath. Fuck's sake. Hiroshi Tanahashi lost the New Japan World Television Championship to Matt fucking Riddle in 8 minutes and 53 seconds. So not only did they put the title on a guy that has alienated Western fans left, right, and centre because, you know, he has a horrible, horrible reputation, could be deported at any moment, they buried the ace of the company by letting him lose in 8 minutes and 53 seconds. Now, I didn't watch this match. I have no idea what the quality of this match particularly was, and Christy didn't either, so we won't be talking about that. We will be talking about some horrible decisions that have led to this moment. Why hire him? Just why? Why? Me and Christy did talk about this a while ago when he was hired, and it still absolutely beggars belief that they have not changed direction on this. Even if they just stuck him on New Japan Strong, and that would have been fine, and had one-off match and got rid of him again, we're now stuck with him. And I'm not going to watch his matches anymore because I just can't be dealing with it, because it just aggravated me. And after the horror of this card, I absolutely was not. And I didn't even watch his match. Even though it was Kazuchika Okada's last match in New Japan Wrestling, I refused to watch it because I was that angry from this particular day. So rather than have my blood boil, I left it well alone. And yeah, Christy, your thoughts?
Oh God. I didn't watch it because Matt Riddle.
Yeah.
I was
I mean,
very sorry.
I was going to say, I did consider just Elgining him, and we wouldn't talk about him, but it's far too important not to talk about him. I mean, it's funny for us, but it doesn't resolve the situation or discuss things that are awful. So carry on.
Yeah.
Apologize for interrupting.
No, that's fine. I was very, very angry that day. So angry that I had to rewatch the match after this because I was just my mind was completely fucked up. I wasn't registering anything that happened after this match, and I didn't even watch it, so it was just the news. Oh, look, he's won, and then pictures of him with the title, and New Japan Global tweeting about it all excitedly, you know, and I'm like, I I have such a hard time with this. Also because I was already annoyed about the rest of the card.
Yeah.
But let me be very clear about this. The rest of the card, that's just wrestling bullshit.
Mhm.
That's kayfabe bullshit. House of Torture are annoying, but they're kayfabe annoying.
Yeah.
They're not terrible people. And booking decisions being horrible is one thing, but this is a real life predator.
Yeah.
A horrible, horrible person who is given a platform, who is given a title on my show, on the show the only show I watch right now. And it just hurts.
Yeah.
Because I thought we were doing better than this. I thought that people in New Japan had understood that this is not what the Western fan base wants.
Yeah.
But apparently they don't. Apparently they don't care. They don't know. I don't know what. So we're stuck with the Predator with the title, which means we have to suffer through at least a couple of more matches. We have to deal with all the bullshit talking, all the people talking bullshit about, oh, he deserves a second chance, and
Yeah. Huh?
I have to deal with like 25 guys in my mentions every day telling me why I shouldn't care and why I'm whining, and it's just
Yeah.
I want to trust New Japan, but I can't trust New Japan.
No, of course you can't. I understand they're a wrestling company, and there's a certain carny element to that they are going to try and make money hand over fist. But this doesn't make money for anyone.
But it also doesn't make sense to me, because why would you bring in a guy like Matt Riddle?
No, who can reduce your draw?
To cater to the Western audience, right? To
Yeah.
the WWE guys, the fans that know him from WWE. How many of those people like Matt Riddle now?
Yeah.
It wasn't for the Japanese fans, because they barely cared, apparently.
No, and the WWE fans are so tribal right now. They will go out of their way not to watch New Japan Pro Wrestling anyway. You aren't going to attract them just because Matt Riddle's on the card.
Yeah, and you already had Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't. You had Dolph Ziggler, who was doing
Yeah.
just the thing you want to do, but better, because people actually like him.
If you manage to get, I don't know, Roman Reigns for the weekend because he was free, then yeah, fair enough, do what you like. But you've got a guy that doesn't draw money, is what even WWE consider a liability. And why? Just to keep MLW happy?
You're alienating Western fans, especially female Western fans.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
In a time where you need those fans, because you're losing Okada, you're losing Ospreay, who is an asshole, but he's very popular with the Western fan base.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like,
and you're just ruining it even more. And also, he got Tanahashi injured.
Yeah.
Like, he shows up, and in his first match, he injures Tanahashi.
The president of the company.
The president of the company.
The accidents do happen. We don't know if it's his fault or not, but it does not bode well. And there is a strong possibility that we may not see Tanner Riddle again because, he has a reputation for drug use, which he, plays up to. And it's the perfectly, reasonable, having personally seen him light up a joint at a wrestling show after he'd finished wrestling. But,
That's I hope that happens. Because then Japan is never bringing him back. Like if it's just, oh, we had a contract for 3 matches and that's over, they could always bring him back.
Yeah.
But if he gets arrested for weed, he's not coming back.
No, he'll get deported, and for those of you who don't think it happens, it did, because Matt Sydal is currently working for AEW, despite the fact he was under long-term contract to New Japan Pro Wrestling in the junior heavyweight division. Because
and
stupid is as stupid does.
We should have seen this coming, because obviously, and I'm going to ruin the result for the next match as well. Why would these guys show up to wrestle and lose in their first big match? Like, obviously, they were promised to win the title.
Mm-hmm.
So we should have seen this coming, and I kind of did. But just to see it happen, I feel like New Japan doesn't care about me or
No.
anyone like me.
No, there you go. And then we get to the main event.
Yeah, and by the way, I have no issue with Ziggler, so nothing I said about Riddle
No,
applies to Ziggler. I'm fine with him showing up. I'm still not invested in him, but that's not a
no,
him problem. That's just I don't know anything about him, and he is not a character on New Japan. So
no, and that is another issue I have, like sticking him straight away in the main event, which I understand is like you obviously want to try. He is likely to draw a Western audience. I have issues with David Finlay losing the championship at this point because you
yeah,
just got him over.
we'll get to that, I'm sure.
Well, we're now, but I mean that's where I have to start because I actually really enjoyed this match. The match itself was great. I really enjoyed it. Not as many other people invested with me. 6.7 match on the Cage Match users because other people don't like David Finlay as much as I do, and I love.
Yeah, but
David
also
Finlay.
people were already down
Yeah,
at this point.
it's
You've
true.
had Matt Riddle winning the title, Desperado losing the title, nothing happening with Shota, House of Torture all over the place. So people were already down. So it being a shitty number doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
I think that people were very negative about night 2. I think 50% of that was based on night 1.
yes. I was reading through the comments as you were saying that. I did really like Shota's match, but I'm also aware I'm probably one of only 2 people on the planet that did.
I like Shota's match.
You're
the
right.
Other
You're the other
That's
one.
number 2.
Everyone else didn't like it. But yes, this match was great. I really did enjoy the actual match. And the comparison with David Finlay and his father kind of grew in this match. I actually had a flashback to a match from the 1990s when Matt Bourne, Doink the Clown in WWE, when he'd left WWE, went to wrestle in Germany in the Catch Wrestling Association, and he wrestled David Finlay III. And David Finlay's promo to camera is, look what for those of you who enjoy real wrestling, look what I do to this WWE clown. And I was like, yeah, that's great. And it kind of reminded me of that match in that sense. Just the swagger that David Finlay has does remind me very much more now of his dad than anything else, which is obvious because he's the same build and the same kind of style of wrestler. And he's very stifling, which his dad was great at as well. I love the fact that he just kind of like works on stuffing other people's momentum, which is one of the reasons why I think a lot of fans don't get into his matches, but it's a lost art. And like just like cutting people off and shutting people down. And his dad's wrestling was very oppressive in that sense. And if you can get a crowd to work towards that, which he did like a master in this match, the crowd just fly along. And it's kind of an old school British wrestling approach. But for that long format New Japan style 25-minute, 30-minute matches, this was 23:07. It's only the same as the old British 15 3-minute rounds. So, it's 45 minutes, but it's that same long format wrestling style with a lot less bumps required because you're telling the story through oppression, not telling the story through, big bumps and big moves and stuff. That's the reason why I like watching it. But I don't think that that's going to get you the internet darling fans that say Kenny Omega got. And, but it's going to make you money and give you a long career. So I was very much am into watching David Finlay wrestle because he's my kind of style of wrestler. I like Nick Nemeth. I think he's really cool. This is probably the first Nick Nemeth match I've actually watched all the way through from beginning to end, to be honest with you. Because I don't watch WWE, and he came up just as I stopped watching it. So, yeah, I like him. I think he needs to not bump less, but sell less. Like, selling in New Japan is progressive. Like at the beginning of the match, they don't sell as much as they do at the end. Whereas Nemeth was selling everything from the get-go. And I think it's just shouting at the audience too much. He can calm down at the beginning, but it'll come to him because though he enjoys it, I think he's still working a WWE style in New Japan. So it'll take him a while.
It also makes sense that if you're used to shorter matches and huge crowds, that then you're going to sell from the get-go.
Yeah. So, yeah, I didn't hate this. What's your thoughts on this one?
I kind of like this one. I think the deal with Finlay is, and we talked about this in the last podcast as well. He's not catering to Western crowds.
No, that's the trouble. From a fan online abuse point of view, makes me smile.
So his matches are not aimed at getting himself over with Western fans.
No.
The aim is to piss people off.
Also,
and
the aim
that
is to
includes Western fans.
And the aim is to also to get baby faces over.
Yeah.
Which is his job.
He's doing his job the way not a lot of Bullet Club leaders have in the past. No offense, Kenny. And that's why I enjoy him. He's not my kind of guy because I like the creative, flashy guys, and he's more. I'm just going to stop the other guy from being creative and flashy, but I like his story and his character, and I like that he's doing what he's supposed to do, and I enjoy watching that. I enjoy just going to his Twitter and seeing what kind of bullshit he's tweeted at this time to get people mad.
Yeah.
It's really entertaining to me because people, there's a kind of irony in the fact that people are choosing Nick Nemeth over David Finlay.
Yeah.
New Japan fans, smart marks, who are usually very intelligent about this kind of thing, or they like to think they're intelligent, are choosing the WWE guy who's coming in for a paycheck and is coming in to win the title versus the guy who's been there for ages and who's defending New Japan.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, and yet people are firmly on Nick's side in this and hate Finlay.
Yeah, but you're supposed to hate Finlay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And that's why he's good.
Yes, he's the best thing they've got going, which is another reason. It's just like, so having drilled it into us that the youth is the future of this particular company, you essentially have got just put the belts on guys who are over 40. This belt on a guy who's over 40.
Yeah, and that's what I hated about this.
Yeah, it's
not
just
so much that it's Nick Nemeth, because I have nothing against the guy, and it was very obvious, like I said, he was going to win the title. Why would he come in for 2 dates if he wasn't going to win the title?
Exactly. Especially as he's just signed a contract with TNA Wrestling.
Yeah.
So his day job is covered, essentially.
The only issue that it completely ruins Finlay's momentum, and also the way fans look at him, because fans were really annoyed because he'd won.
Yeah.
And now it's like, look, the losers lost, and New Japan just confirmed for fans what they already thought of Finlay.
They booked themselves into a corner, essentially.
Kind of. I'm fully assuming that Finlay is going to win the title back, because he's already talking in backstage promos about that, about winning New Japan Cup and then getting back at Nick Nemeth. Everyone's talking about winning New Japan Cup, by the way. It's like 6 people are going to win the New Japan Cup. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's going to happen. So I'm assuming he's getting it back. But you've kind of established that a guy who doesn't wrestle here, who doesn't wrestle the style that they wrestle here, can beat Finlay, even though he's never wrestled Finlay before.
No, even though he literally nearly murdered 5 people last week.
Yeah.
So it's just like, why isn't he just demolishing Nick Nemeth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also interesting I know I'm the only one who watches backstage comments, but
I actually did listen to backstage comments today because I had it on whilst I was cleaning the house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Finlay basically going, what was it? Something is wrong. I have bad news about War Dogs, and things are going to change forever.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming a couple of people are leaving.
Yeah, I mean, well, it was talking about this. Gabe's currently heading up to his contract, so should be due for renewal. and I don't see why New Japan wouldn't sign him again.
But
Unless
why
he
would
means
Finlay
some.
say this if no one's leaving?
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like, I don't know. We'll have to see, won't we? But yeah, I mean, there
And
was.
it also kind of makes sense if you look at the fact that New Japan is pushing House of Torture. You can't really push House of Torture and War Dogs at the same time.
No, but they were pushing War Dogs and not House of Torture 2 weeks ago. And this is another
Exactly,
issue.
and now they're suddenly
Yeah,
pushing
this
House
is
of
the
Torture.
this is the other issue of like it's scattergun booking. Like we had a narrative which essentially just got washed away in one afternoon, and it's like,
Yeah, it just confirms my
lack of trust.
lack of trust, especially in the booking and the writing of the foreign guys, because it's just you just set up War Dogs. You just got me invested into War Dogs, and now I have to, one, listen to the fact that a couple might be leaving, and two, see you completely ruin the story you were telling with Finlay while bringing in two guys that you want me to get invested in, that one of whom is horrible, but who aren't going to stay either. Riddle and Nemeth aren't going to wrestle for New Japan the entire year through. They're going to wrestle a couple of dates and then fuck off again.
And that wouldn't be so bad if it was like the Hogan dates or the big star dates that you used to have in the 90s and 80s, because they wouldn't be part of the story. You'd have a massive blow-off match at the Tokyo Dome. Hey, look, wasn't that great? Move on with the story.
Yeah.
Whereas now you have to put them in the story because it's much more of a storyline-based organization, and as a result of that, it just stops the momentum of everything.
Yeah, and you don't have like the opposite. It would be one thing if you had, out of all the foreign stars, 90% were there constantly, and you didn't have to worry. And then once every couple of months, they'd bring someone in. But no, except for Zach and Finlay, who's there constantly? Tama's leaving.
Mm-hmm. Even Tama wasn't there constantly.
No, and there's questions about ELP.
Yeah, and Tangaloa.
Tangaloa is
he's been in. To be fair, he's been injured.
He's been injured, but even when he wasn't, they weren't there constantly. But still, you kind of expected them to show up again. And I don't expect guys who leave now to come back in 3 months.
There's also the flip side of that. Tangaloa is a really good example of why should they invest for the lower card guys who get signed in sometimes. It may be changing now, but like Tangaloa was a 3-time IWGP World Tag Team Champion before he got a permanent contract. He was on nightly deals, and it's like, from a wrestler's point of view, I've got to get the kids through college and pay the bills, and why would I sign for a company that's not going to give me some kind of long-term investment?
Yeah.
So it's
not just New Japan who doesn't care about the foreign talent, because I was going to mention this before the Yuya Yota match, but Yota and Yuya did this interview, and I'll talk about the rest of the interview then. But one of the comments Yota made is, I'm the future, and along with me, you've got Yuya, you've got Shota, you've got Ren, you've got Oiwa, you've got Fujita, and you've got the Young Lions that are coming up.
Yeah.
No mention of any of the future foreign guys.
No.
And that just felt like that's completely the issue. Even the wrestlers, even the characters in this setting, don't see a future for any of these foreign guys.
No. Because it is like, so what are they going to, why spend all that money on the LA Dojo? And
he mentioned the Young Lions before he mentioned like Gabe Kidd or David Finlay or like the Young Lions.
Yeah.
And that just makes me feel like if they don't care, why should I?
And it also goes back to an old school Japanese narrative. Like, the predecessor to the G1 was the MSG tournament when they had the WWE, but I can't remember the original name of it. But they had a tournament. The IWGP heavyweight tournament before that, and they had a tournament every year. And the first 3 years was Japanese guys in one bracket, foreigners in the other bracket. And it was just that it was basically down to racism back then, you know, but it also guaranteed you a nationalistic main event, which was what they were really after. But, you know, it's that old school attitude of like, you know, foreigners, they're here and we don't hate them, but they don't really matter.
Yeah, and it's I don't think New Japan has to cater to the Western fans. I don't think they have to invest as much in the foreign guys as they do the native talent. Like, it's a Japanese company, and I completely get that. But if you're going to use these foreign guys, then you have to give me a reason to invest in them. And they have so many foreign guys, and I'm like, and I'm sorry to the guys, to the wrestlers, if you got rid of like 50% and then gave all that money to the foreign guys you want to have there for a long time, you could build something.
Yeah, like essentially the old Bullet Club, which was massively successful. And while we've talked about how the fact it played with storylines, in the Prince Devitt AJ Styles days, when it was at its most creative and most financially successful, it was not a massive amount of guys. And nearly all of the foreign talent was in Bullet Club. There was one or two exceptions, but not many. So it can be done. You've done it before. But now you have at least 3 factions that are entirely based out of foreign guys: United Empire, Bullet Club, War Dogs, Old School, and TMDK.
A GOD.
And well, Hontai really, aren't they? But you know what I mean? Yeah, I suppose. So, yeah.
A lot of thoughts, a lot of ranting.
Yeah, but
and this is all coming from I want New Japan to be successful.
Yeah, but I look at like Jack Morris and the guys in Noah, and they're getting title runs and shots, and like, you know, they're being looked after and the fans are investing in them. They're in the good-looking guys faction, which is the dumbest name for a faction I've ever heard, but it works.
We have just 5 guys. I mean,
yeah. Well, they on the crossover show they had a match against good-looking guys versus just 5 guys on the All Together Again show.
If you combine the two, you get just 5 good-looking guys.
Exactly. Yes, that was right. Anywho, shall we move on to night 2? I think we've kind of like negatived ourselves out of this.
Yeah, we can be a bit more positive on night 2.
Yes. Tetsuya Mushirishima and Tomoyaka Honma defeated Tomoyoa and Toru Yano 7 minutes and 48 seconds. I didn't think they did. I was pretty sure Honma's team lost. Yeah, I'm sure. I think this is wrong. I'll have to look it up on the New Japan results, but I'm pretty sure it went the other way, to be honest with you.
I can't help you. I didn't watch this.
It was same shenanigans.
That's why I was like, they're basically the same matches, only they have a different young lion.
Yeah, interchangeable young.
So
interchangeable young lion results. Let me have a look at this results. 24th. There we go. Yeah, no, Tomoya got the pinfall off of a Morishima. It was the cage match. It was wrong.
Oh.
Oh, Striga. I have to have words with you about this. But yes, cage match, folks. It was wrong.
It's okay. It's just a young lion match.
Yes. Well, obviously, a Toru Yano match, massively important. But yeah, to me, yes, to me. But yeah, it was just big dumb fun, and it was fine. El Desperado, Oleg Bolton, Shota Toga Makabe, and Yo defeated House of Torture, Dick Togo, Evil, Ren Narita, Show, Yujiro Takahashi in 7 minutes 58 seconds. Bloody awful match. At the end of which Yo stole the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship belt, so apparently that'll be Show's main focus going forward, but he has the minor issue on Tetsuya Naito on the anniversary show, because originally everyone was really looking forward to Tetsuya Naito versus El Desperado on the anniversary show, because that would have been amazing.
Well, we can't have nice things.
But we can't have nice things, because no, apparently we just have to have a shit match instead. So, Yeah.
I'm kind of.
All right. I knew we said it was going to be more positive, but this was depressing. It gets better after this.
Yeah,
We
can we
promise.
talk about the anniversary first? Because before I
sure.
forget, I wonder what they're going to do on that one. Because Naito is not the kind of guy who fights a lot of people at the same time, and LIJ is not the kind of faction who will send people out. So how are they going to fight against House of Torture?
Well, if you look in post-match comments, Show was saying, you've come to challenge me for the anniversary show. And Naito's like, you want me to put the World Heavyweight Championship on the line? No, because then you'll take it far too seriously. And beat 7 shades of shit out of me very quickly.
So maybe Show's going to go, I'm going to do the honorable thing and wrestle normally?
No, I don't think so. You can't. They can't do it that way because Show's been proven to be utterly rubbish when he tries to wrestle normally. So
yeah, but you can't have Show win.
No, he's losing.
But the interference from House of Torture would suggest that he should win. Like, if 5 guys are going to show up, not even Naito should be able to survive that. So
no,
I'm kind of curious how they're going to deal with that.
They'll figure it out one way or another. But Naito is kind of got a history of getting things through sneak pinfall victories, which isn't the New Japan way. So I can think of a couple of roll-ups that you would probably use to get a cheap victory and scoot out the way. So you might not get a roll call at the anniversary show, but you would get a win. So, but again, it is just like, I suppose it's different for an anniversary show to have like the anti-New Japan match. I suppose it does make a bit of an interesting change, but
yeah, and Naito just outright defeating Show and making a mockery of him does fit with the character for Show, because Show is supposed to be a weakling who's horrible and a coward and needs the help from his teammates to win.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. It's
just
we could have had
more
Despy
annoying. We could have had like something really good, like a strong narrative going forward for both wrestlers. Instead, we've got this shit book.
Talking about Despy, are we going to do the hypothetical him in New Japan Cup?
We should do, really. I mean, yes, junior heavyweights have entered the New Japan Cup before. Desperado got quite far. He got to the quarterfinals and wrestled Kazuchika Okada in a banger. And he is a wrestler who can wrestle at heavyweight and look believable doing so. So, but there is the thing, is should he win the New Japan Cup, which bout does he challenge for? Because the obvious thing is to challenge for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Or does he challenge for a heavyweight belt, which he would have the option to challenge for the Never Openweight, the World Heavyweight Championship, the Global Championship, or the King of Pro Wrestling Championship?
I hope they don't do him against Riddle.
I hope so too.
I've seen that
or
match.
TV Championship, yeah.
Because ironically, that's the one of 2 Desperado matches I've seen live. It's him in a singles match versus Riddle.
Yeah.
In 2018.
Before the horror.
Bad. Yeah, before we knew that he was an asshole. Or at least I knew. I don't know if anyone else.
He worked in British wrestling. There's a long list of people we were kind of, that are assholes. So yeah. Anyone who spent an inordinate amount of time wrestling in the UK in that period has become quite suspect anyway. So
yeah. Well, Desperado New Japan Cup. My thing is, how many people are talking about the New Japan Cup? So many. There's like 6-7 people who are relying solely on the New Japan Cup to give them a storyline or direction. So I don't see them going with Desperado of all people to win this. It would explain why he's lost the belt if he is doing something.
If he goes all the way, but then the question is, the obvious thing is to go after Show.
Yeah, but he's not gonna go all the way. I mean,
no, but I don't think it's unbelievable. He only needs a good draw.
Yeah, but my thing is, New Japan is building up all these guys. They have all these storylines. You've got David Finlay, who's like 100% geared to winning it, so he can get the title back. You've got SANADA talking about the New Japan Cup. You've got Evil, you've got Shota, all the young guys. You've got Suji who wants to challenge Naito. There's so many guys who need a story, who need the boost, and especially at this time when New Japan needs to build these guys. Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah.
wants to win the tournament. I don't see them going with Desperado. If you take the belt from him, which was his biggest boost, you're not going to give him the New Japan Cup against all these guys who you need to build, because Desperado's already built.
I would like to see him in the G1 this year.
I would love to see Desperado win. I would love to see Desperado in the G1. It doesn't make sense to me if I'm looking at it from a New Japan point of view.
But equally, just look at the booking you saw on the previous day.
Okay, yeah.
We've just spent an hour and a half explaining to people why that was not good booking.
Yeah.
So, if it may be a poor booking decision, but it's a decision, and it might happen. So, I think it's worth exploring. Yeah,
maybe, and I hope they put him in there. I think him against Naruto would be interesting because they do focus on that a lot, even during this match.
Yeah.
I'm also curious what they're going to do. We've talked about it a bit, about what you're going to do with Desperado now that he's not in strong style technically anymore.
Yeah, true.
Where would you put him?
I don't know. If Suzuki's not there and Strong Style's been dissolved, he's kind of going to have to float around in Hontai because I don't see him fitting anywhere else, except possibly Chaos.
Now, see, I think Just Five Guys and TMDK would be a good fit because of the history he has with all of those guys. Like, Just Five Guys seems like the obvious choice to me. You've got Taichi, you've got Taka, you've got Doki there. It makes sense that they'd be like, well, come over, come over, Despy, we've got space for you. Also because they're not heels, and Desperado's not a heel, so it's kind of perfect. And TMDK has Zach, and they've got a junior who could use a tag team partner or a mentor.
But they've already got Robbie Eagles.
They do, but as we discussed, foreigners are very rarely there all the time.
True.
And you could have, like, whenever Desperado's aiming for the singles titles, you have Robbie there, and when Robbie is gone, they could focus on the tag team titles.
I understand what you're saying, but I also think that, like, Despy's got too many leadership qualities for him to be just another faction. I think it's time for him to lead.
My problem is with Hontai. He's not Hontai. He's anti-Hontai. That's his whole thing. His whole thing was, I can't be the ace because I'm not Hontai.
No, but he can redefine himself as something else. He can always embrace that. There's stories you can tell around that. But I don't think he doesn't fit anywhere. The only place he fitted was in Suzuki Gun and Strong Style. And now he's lost. That's the kind of the point, isn't it?
And that's why I want to put him in a faction, because I would find that way more interesting to see how he repositions himself, how he rediscovers who he is in a faction. Because right now it's like he's off to the side somewhere on Honsai, just standing there like, okay, and now?
I don't think he is, because I think he stands out in every situation.
He does, but there's no connection. There's no relationships. The only relationship he has is Watto, and Watto's injured.
Yeah.
You saw him with
he had no relationship with Watto a year.
Sorry?
He had no relationship with Watto a year ago.
No, and that's why I would like to see him build some relationships, and I don't see that happening with Hontai so much, because they're not a faction, and they don't mix well with Desperado's character.
They don't mix well with each other.
Exactly. That's my problem.
But that's kind of the point, yeah. But I mean, but here's the thing, right? In Hontai, I see him taking over Tama's role as the recruiter, as the guy that can get things done for Hontai. Because I think he kind of I can see him doing that mentor role that he's kind of got with Watto with other people. But if you stick him in a faction, that's limiting him. And I think he's a guy who's limitless. I can see your point. I understand what you're doing. But to me, if you put him in a faction, he's just another faction guy. And it's just like,
Yeah, and my thing is I want him to be a mentor, so I want him to be in a group. Because if say for example he wants to invite Akira, he's not going to say, "Oh, Akira, come join in Hontai with me," because that's not a group.
no, but he could have his own group. Here's the thing.
That I would be okay with, but I don't see
that's my
that
point.
happening.
Is like back in the day, in the early 2000s, there was essentially Jushin Liger. I can't remember the name of the faction now. I'm going to look it up. But he started a faction, a junior heavyweight only faction, and it was a heel faction, and it was Killer. And I'm trying to remember the name of the faction.
You're looking it up.
I'm looking it up. That's the reason why, because I couldn't remember it. Control Terrorism Unit, right? And this was the name of that. This was faction from 2004 to 2007 with leader of New Japan heel style Control Terrorism Unit, along with Hiroki Goto, Minoru Tanaka, Black Tiger 4, that's Rocky, Gedo and Jado, Prince Devitt, and James Gibson. And it's like, why can't we have something like that again? They don't have to be heels, but you could.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I would give Desperado his own faction, but I don't think New Japan would, because if they would have, why disband Strong Style? Why not just give Desperado Strong Style? Why not ask Suzuki, just give it to Desperado?
Because he can build his own thing, and it can be his thing in his image.
But Strong Style could be his thing.
It could be.
He's an originator of that faction.
Yes,
I don't know. I just don't. I don't trust New Japan to have enough trust in him to give him his own faction. So
I
I'm like,
understand what you're saying, but I think it devalues him if you put him in a faction.
and I think well, we'll have
Except
to disagree,
Chaos. I think you're right, but except Chaos, and the only reason why I say except Chaos is because they're sorely lacking in junior heavyweights. Yo is the only junior heavyweight they have on the active roster. Leo Rush is there when they need him, but that's when they need him, and he isn't a full-time wrestler for New Japan.
Well, same with DMDK.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned, by the way, the option of GOD.
Yeah, I mean that makes more sense. But again, I don't really see them as a faction. I just see them as like a subset of Hontai.
Yeah, but like it's with Strong Style, they have a faction name, and they don't regularly wrestle with Hontai. They wrestle with each other.
Yeah, they did, but there was 3 of them. But then there was only 2 left.
That's why adding Desperado, also because Desperado keeps talking to like Akira, could put both of them there.
Yeah.
It's just I want the best for Desperado, and I feel like his character would get lost if he becomes fully Hontai.
I don't, but I can understand where you're coming from. Shall we move on?
Yeah. One more thing from this match, the Jack Perry video.
Oh yeah.
We should probably mention. I didn't watch the video. Just
it wasn't very long. Honest. It wasn't very long, and it was just Jack Perry saying he was coming for Shota Umino. Yeah. And it's like, fine, please take him.
No. It's just another example of like Shota having all these people jumping him for no reason.
Yes, but they were calling Jack Perry the scapegoat, and it's like, well, yeah, fair enough. It wasn't Jack Perry's fault, CM Punk's cock, but there we are.
Yeah, sorry, this means nothing to me because I don't watch AEW, and I just about know who Jack Perry is.
If you would like to find out the entire history of the CM Punk issues, please go back to the I'm not talking to you. Please go back to the podcasts myself and Chelsea did, one of 3 podcasts about CM Punk on this channel. We've talked for hours about the man, but there you go. And my attitude about him has changed considerably in the intervening 10-year period. Anywho, but yes, Jack Perry though, quite like him. I think he's quite cool. So it'll be intriguing because at least somebody's doing something with him. But there you go. Yeah. But I don't think it'll interest you because you have no connection with him whatsoever.
No, sorry.
It's all right. Have you watched any teen movies from the late 1980s or early 1990s?
No.
No. There you go. You see, can't even like hang on to something his dad did.
No.
Did he watch Riverdale? There you go. Anywho,
no.
Let's just
I know
move
he's an actor, and I can recognize his face.
Yes. He's sadly no longer with us.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Chaos versus United Empire match I didn't watch because of Riddle, and I was that angry from the previous day. I'm not watching this drizzle. So, Christy did watch this match.
This is ironic. Usually I'm the one who doesn't watch the matches.
No, but you get to actually call a match this time and review it properly. So.
Well, you expect me to have comments about the match?
No.
The characters and stuff? I wouldn't expect much out of me.
Oh, we know this is something we haven't asked. Show not a positive thing before going to think. Shota Umino's new haircut.
Oh yeah, it looks good. I had to laugh though, because of course Shota Umino would get a haircut in the week that they do a hair versus hair match.
Yeah, I thought it looked a mess personally, but you know, what do I know?
I like the longer hair more, but I think it's cute. But
okay.
I had to laugh because Shota's supposed to be the guy who's really knowledgeable about the business, and he's like, I'm going to get a haircut 3 days before the hair versus hair match.
God, yeah. Why?
You couldn't have waited like a week.
No.
But I'm okay with it.
Anywho.
Yeah. Okay. This match, I watched it purely because I want, out of respect for Okada, because it's his last match. Normally, I would not watch a Riddle match, but I was like, this is going to be Okada's last match, and he's meant a lot to me, so I'm going to watch this for him and just like close my eyes whenever Riddle shows up. This is also when we were informed about Tanahashi's injury, by the way. He was supposed to wrestle with Nick Nemeth in match 4 or 5.
Yeah.
The one with Nemeth and Finlay.
Yeah.
But he's injured, so that sucks. Apparently something to do with his ankle.
All right. I hope he's okay.
I hope it's okay. I hope it's a minor thing. Yeah. Tanahashi looked so sad during this match. It made me sad because Tanahashi was on commentary during this, and just he looked so, without being rude, he looked old. Like he was just tired and upset, and was seeing like the future walk away in a way.
Yeah. No, I completely understand.
It just made me sad to see, because I can't imagine how hard it must be for Tanahashi to already feel like you're struggling, and he's done it before, like, right? He's brought New Japan back, and now he's like, I thought I could give this job to someone else, but no, I have to do it again.
Yeah. That's the thing.
I imagine he's really tired and stuff.
Yeah.
And emotional, because he seemed to be emotional about Okada leaving as well.
Yeah, because they're good friends in private, from what I understand, you know.
Yeah.
So it's.
And the match, the one thing I remember from the actual wrestling is that Okan kept trying to get Okada's attention.
Yeah.
And at the very end, after Okada had pinned Callum Newman, Okan kept standing there with a KOPW title, trying to get Okada's attention.
Yes.
And Okada just ignored him.
He did that the previous day as well. He stood in the aisle with the belt above his head,
and I find that, because it wasn't just Okan. I talk about the backstage stuff a lot because there's a lot of storyline stuff happening there, and in the backstage comments you had Okan completely destroying Okada. Like, you're horrible, you only care about money, and you're weak for leaving when the going gets tough, stuff like that. But also Tsuji.
Yeah.
And Tsuji confronted Okada after his match as well, but also during the backstage comments, challenging Okada. Like, have a match with me at the anniversary show.
Yeah. And it's easy to say it when the guy's going out the door as well. That's what heels are supposed to do. And though Tsuji is in a kind of babyface-ish faction, they're kind of heels as well. I know Great United Empire are supposed to be I'm not sure what United Empire is supposed to be anymore. Are they heels? Are they faces? They were just faces because they were wrestling War Dogs. I don't recall them turning babyface ever, and yet people just kind of started cheering for them. A bit weird, but there you go.
Might be the Ospreay factor, which wasn't for us, but
No, but there you
was
go.
interesting for others. But it's watching that from an outside perspective. You had the seniors just hyping Okada up. Thank you, Okada. You were wonderful. Please come back one day. But all the young guys are shitting all over him. And on the one hand, I assume it's for the future, like setting up, if he comes back, setting up a potential storyline. And Okada completely ignoring it makes sense because, like, that's probably not something they agreed on.
Yeah.
And they're just like, if I set this up, maybe I'll get a match with Okada in the future.
Yeah, strong
Also,
possibility.
it could be genuine annoyance that Okada is leaving the way he is.
Partly.
And none of them were put over.
Yeah, but again, that's kind of... the trouble is with Okada leaving is a big, difficult position for New Japan Pro Wrestling in the sense of, if he goes to AEW, there's a strong chance he's essentially working within the same framework and structure as New Japan Pro Wrestling. In which case, you don't want him to lose on the way out. Mm-hmm. If he goes to WWE, you book him against the biggest rising star you've got, and you job him out. Not job him out, but you give him 25 minutes of back and forth, and he loses a big match because you're not going to get him back for quite a period of time. But they didn't really know, and he only really made the decision last week. I know he went to see Ultimo Dragon last week, and he always goes to see Ultimo Dragon every time he makes a big decision about his career. And he went to see Ultimo Dragon to tell him what he'd finally decided. So I know he knows what they've decided. But equally, I can understand, not doing jobs to people on the way out is aggravating for the people who are coming up. But equally, that's also a protected player who's made the company.
Yeah,
it's not like it's the Bryan Danielson retiring in the next 2 years is a different story to what Okada is going to do because he's still a main event player who could be valuable to you in the future. Danielson, he's done. He's quite happy to lose to everybody. He lost to Mark Briscoe the last month. That's fine. He's okay with that. He doesn't have an issue with it. He's not trying to protect his legacy. In fact, he's trying to do everything the way out he possibly can.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I understand that point of view. And I definitely don't think Okada should lose to any of the young guys on the way out. But I feel like a 30-minute barnstormer of a match with one of the young guys and Okada wins in the end and shows one of the young guys some respect could already make that guy. And they didn't even do any of that. They just had Okada completely destroy or ignore all of these guys that you want to build.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't have to have Okada lose, but you could have an amazing match with one of the young guys. And have Okada in the backstage comments say something like, he really impressed me. If I come back one day, I hope he is at my level, or something that gives one of the guys a bit of a rub without completely destroying Okada's credibility. And even then, you could never destroy Okada's credibility, even if he lost. But I would not make him lose. But imagine a 30-minute match with a Shota or a Tsuji. Okada is amazing. Okada can make anyone look good. And what does New Japan need right now? They're young guys to look good.
Yeah. No.
So we talked about wanting Zack versus Okada and one of the young guys versus Okada. I would have at least liked to have seen one of the young guys versus Okada.
Yeah. But we didn't get that. Anything else you'd like to say from this match?
Backstage comments were really cute with Chaos. I thought Okada's comment was very interesting because he was like, "Oh, thank you guys for being so nice," and Yoshihashi was like, "We'll be here for you, Okada. We'll always have your back." And then Okada responds with, "Oh, Yoshihashi, I could never quit you," which which is a very romantic thing to say. I'm like, okay, Okada, I didn't know you felt that way towards Yoshihashi. I don't know if that's just a weird translation, but I thought that was special. Like, do you say that kind of thing to your friends? But that's also the relationship those two have,
Yeah.
which I'm going to miss so much because I always loved that Okada looked at Yoshihashi like Yoshihashi was the biggest star in the company
Hmm.
because Yoshihashi was his mentor
Yeah.
in the very beginning.
He was his senior in the dojo, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So.
I thought that was always very cute. So I'm glad they got some of that at the very end there. Interjection, by the way. I was just randomly checking my Twitter account, and I've been locked because of a copyright claim. So
Which one?
I'm going to check now, but I'm assuming it's the screenshots from the backstage comments because
I would think so.
even Stuart was sharing those, and they got really a lot of attention. So let me just check. 1 second. I have to agree that I won't do this again. Oh, they emailed me copies. Let's just see.
This is someone getting locked out of their account live on the
Live
Troopany show.
on the Troopany show.
Live and in color or in visual.
I don't remember which Twitter. Oh yeah, this one. Oh, there's a lot of them. Oh my god.
Oh god.
It's all the screenshots from today. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24, 25, 26, 7, 8,
It's almost
9,
as
10,
if New Japan don't want anyone
30,
to watch the shows.
31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. There's like 45. No, we're keeping on like 50 screenshots I uploaded that I have an issue with.
Okay, you best take them down before you get kicked off Twitter.
If you believe the material has been removed as a result of a mistake, no. I was trying to get people engaged in your problem, in your product.
No, project sounds right.
Do you want to contest the takedown? No. Your access is now available for use. Please be aware that any additional notices may result in your account being locked again and potentially suspended. Well,
New Japan continuing to shoot themselves in the foot. Kind of sums up this weekend, really, doesn't it?
It does.
Anywho.
The interesting thing is that the Suji one is still up.
All right, okay.
Oh.
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
All right, Gorillas of Destiny, El Fantasma and Hikuleo defeated Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tangaloa in 14 minutes and 4 seconds in Tama Tonga's farewell match, as all 5 of Gorillas of Destiny were involved in this match with Jado refereeing. And it was kind of what you expected it to be. It was a fun match. Gorillas GOD OGs came out in their traditional gear, and El Fantasma and Hikuleo had their usual fun kind of take on what the Gorillas of Destiny should be, and everyone had a good time, and emotional farewell from Tama Tonga. But it was good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't horrible. Didn't really do an awful lot other than what it needed to do. I thoroughly enjoyed what it was. What did you think, Christy?
I thought that was really nice, this one, because it just felt emotional.
Yeah.
Just looking at Hikuleo's face, I was like, he's feeling a lot of things right now. And then Tama and Tonga came out with their original look, and the original music, and I was like, this is the guys I was introduced to.
Yeah.
This is also the Tama Tonga I like the best. You know, the creepy heel who's too cool for school. You know, that's the Tama I enjoy the most. And the entire match, it didn't feel like a match because I didn't feel like they really wanted to hurt each other, which makes sense because they're on the same team, and that's what I liked about it. It felt more like a saying goodbye than anything else. And just at the end of the match with Tama in tears on the ground and Hikuleo in tears and ELP like hugging him and comforting him. And it's like it must be so hard for Tama, but also Tanga and Hikuleo. And like Hikuleo's he's in his 30s, but to me he feels very young still. And it must be hard to have to say goodbye to like a guy who is your brother and your mentor and your lifeline and your role model and all of those things in one.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially because they work so far from home. Like they always had each other, and he still has Tonga, but yeah, it's like saying goodbye to part of your history.
Yeah, exactly. Nuts.
And then for Tama, he's been emotional in like the last couple of matches, but him saying goodbye while also pushing Hikuleo to the stars in a way, must be so conflicting for him. Like good feelings, bad feelings, sad feelings. He might also be a little annoyed that him leaving is being put on the back burner compared to everyone else. I don't know if they planned all of them to leave at the same time.
No, but I think the thing is, like, you know, Tama announced his departure after Okada announced his departure, I think. So it was, and he would have known Ospreay was going, and he would have known that Okada was going, and it's like
Suzuki probably wouldn't know, but Suzuki's not being made much of a. They didn't even mention it on commentary.
Suzuki's not going. Suzuki's around.
He's just not coming back.
Yeah, he's just, I'm sure we will see him again. So it's not worth mentioning that he won't be back for a while. Whereas with Ospreay and Okada and Tama Tonga, they've gone. So it's
You know what made me almost cry?
Mm-hmm.
In this, the backstage comments is Jado going, I refuse to say goodbye because you never say never in this business. So see you one day, Tama.
Bless him.
And I thought that was so sweet.
When I left my previous job, there was about 7 of us left at once because it was the end of COVID and all the people who were going to retire had held on till the end of COVID to make sure the kids were all right. And everyone who was going to move jobs held on to make sure the kids were all right. And we all left at once. And one of our colleagues said, I'm not saying goodbye to any of you because then you'll never have left.
Aw, that's so cute.
She's awesome. So, yes, so I completely agree with that.
Yeah,
and I'm going to miss Tama. I really am going to miss Tama. And we haven't talked about that much because of other stuff, but I am going to miss Tama because he's a glue guy wrestler, and I love those style of wrestlers that you need. And watching him beat Okada was awesome.
And he was one of the foreigners who you expected to always be there.
Yeah, true. And guy's got to do what he's got to do for his family, and I'm perfectly happy with.
I don't blame him.
No, you got to see your kids. That's kind of like this is the trouble is the Japanese tours back in the day were the perfect wrestling kind of like parenting jobs because you were 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. Yes, you didn't see your kids for 2 weeks, but you have 2 weeks free, paid to go see them once you've been for 2 weeks. Whereas if you work for WWE or NWA, you never saw your kids. So this was kind of like the dream thing, but now being full time in Japan is full time, and that's you don't get the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off that you used to do because it's such a commitment to media and everything else. If you want to be a big star in Japan, you've got to go be a big star in Japan.
Mm.
But anywho, so yes. Shall we move on to the next match?
Yeah, I just like that it was so emotional, and I like my wrestling to be emotional.
Nick Nemeth and Ryusuke Taguchi defeated Bullet Club War Dogs, David Finlay, and get out. That happened. Didn't really do an awful lot. It was fine. Yeah, it was okay. Then Nick Nemeth challenged Hiroshi Tanahashi, which is the big issue I have with this particular championship run, is just because, like, there's Nemeth, who's 43, who's now challenging Tanahashi. I understand, but you could have just had that dream match without any of this being involved. And it would have drew money. And Nemeth would have won, because he would have won, and he would have stayed around. And therefore, that would have solved a bunch of problems. Why are you doing this just to bury David Finlay? It just makes no sense. And it's fine. And I'm sure I'll enjoy the match when I watch it, which should Tanahashi be fit. But it just seems like such a waste when you could have just had that match anyway and built it up as a dream match. Because Nemeth doesn't need a story. His story is, hey, I'm one of the biggest wrestling stars of the last 15 years. You know, that's all you need. You can run him against anyone. He doesn't need a belt to do that. Doesn't need that level of credibility. You could have gone about this so many different ways. Instead, David Finlay, who's just lost all his heat, has to put over a visitor who's not going to be around for very long. But there you go. Yeah. Any thoughts?
I hope that Nemeth knows that he's now being cursed.
Because he's tagged with Ryusuke Taguchi.
Not only has he tagged with Taguchi, but apparently, because Taguchi said this in the backstage comment, apparently he asked to be in Taguchi Japan.
Oh, good God.
And out of like the 12 guys in Taguchi Japan, only one has survived. So, goodbye, Nemeth. It was nice knowing you.
Yeah. Shouldn't be here for another 3 or 4 weeks and you'll be done.
Yeah, that's your New Japan career done. Maybe we should get Taguchi to add Riddle to Taguchi Japan.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be interesting. Unfortunately, he seems to be United Empire bound, or at least associated
Not
with.
Not technically, because they talked about this in the, again, backstage comments about Cobb saying that he wasn't in United Empire, but that he would talk to his agent. I hope he doesn't.
No,
don't
I hope
talk
so
to his
too.
agent. Don't.
Anyway, Bushi defeats. Well, yes, let's do the next. The next 5 matches were all part of the LIJ Just 5 Guys Gauntlet series, which would culminate with the hair versus hair match and the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match. Bushi versus Taka Michinoku was the opening of this series, 9 minutes and 13 seconds, and arguably, possibly my favorite of all 5 matches. Actually, no, Duki and Hiromu was my favorite. Bushi, and it was the best of the 5 matches. Duki and Taka and Bushi was probably my second favorite match of all 5, though probably not as technically great, but I prefer Bushi and Taka over most things. 7 days a week and twice on Sunday, I'd watch these two wrestle all the time if I could. Taka's like, how old is Taka? 50. He's my age. He's the same age. Well, no, I'm a year younger than he is, and he's just a force of nature, isn't he? Just wrestles incredible matches. I think it was Chris Charlton was saying he was in the first best of Super Juniors when they changed the name from Top of Super Juniors in '94 when he was 20. Yeah,
just a baby.
Just ridiculous. He was ridiculous back then. He was just insanely good back then. But yes, he was FMW Independent World Junior Heavyweight Champion before he was 20, I think. Unreal. Anyway, this was good. What did you think of this?
I like that this is like your second favorite match.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my comments and I have nothing. Literally nothing.
This is because I can be perfectly entertained by a very good professional wrestling match, and Bushi
I know,
very good
and I know.
well.
And it's not that it was bad or that I didn't enjoy it, but the entire story was for both guys who take the pin, and we're going to see who doesn't take the pin this time. And that was all there was to it. So even the entire match, there wasn't really a story to it. They were just two wrestlers wrestling. So I had nothing to comment on.
In my world, all wrestling would be like this forever, and you wouldn't enjoy it at all.
And then we would never speak again because I would stop watching. So,
anyway,
it was fun. I just have nothing to comment on.
Next up, Dookie defeats Hiromu Takahashi with the Circa de la Luna.
I thought you were going to say with
pronounce
the
it.
circus.
With the circus. Suplex Della Luna. I get it right. It was Suplex Della Luna. I kind of pronounced that. I can pronounce suplex, but I was like Circa Della Luna. What? Yeah, Suplex Della Luna, which he rarely hits because it's so difficult to get on, which is highly inspired by Joshi wrestlers. If you watch the Mayu Iwatani, her finisher is very, very similar to Taichi's finisher. 14 minutes and 45 seconds. His first singles victory over Hiromu Takahashi. Yeah, this was great. This was absolute barnstorming. Stole the show. Actually did steal the show. I love this match. Just great. Just absolutely great. Dookie's always been this good, but never had a chance to really show it and to be this creative and just do his thing. And Hiromu was very keen to get him over in this match, and that's what made this match tick. And yeah, Best of Super Juniors finalist now, Dookie, definitely.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think I can see him getting to 8 or 10 points, just having a really strong run, even if he doesn't get to the semi-finals. But yeah, this was a make or break match, and he absolutely made himself in this match. He was perfect, and the fans loved him. Even Hiromu was like, "Why are you cheering for this guy?" So yeah, this was great. Absolutely loved it. What do you think of this?
This was my favorite one.
Yeah.
I went into this knowing it was probably going to be my favorite one, because of the thing we talked about, that Hiromu was getting really creative, and I think Doki's especially good at allowing people to be creative, because his wrestling style is very all over the place and creative, and that's why both the wrestling and the storytelling is always going to be good in a Hiromu versus Doki match. Doki, I love Doki. There's a reason why he was my wild card in the podcast we did last week. And just seeing him achieve something like this makes me so happy. It makes me have a little bit of faith that New Japan might be going the way I want them to go with Doki. I don't necessarily need him to win the title this year, but I would like to see them position him higher on the card and getting more chances, and maybe next year get the title. Which he's building his arsenal. He's adding new moves, which is always a good sign, I think. And just seeing him so happy, he was literally crying in the ring.
Yeah.
So a very emotional 2 days, because everyone was crying. And he mentioned in the backstage comments that Hiromu, while they are not close, Hiromu's always been the one who supported him the most, who believed in him the most.
Yeah.
And I can see that. I can see Hiromu seeing that in Doki, seeing himself in Doki. The weirdo who was kind of bad at wrestling and who went to Mexico to achieve something and then came back to New Japan. I can see Hiromu, like I said, seeing himself in Doki and feeling like he wants to give Doki the chance that Naito gave him.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it also works for his character that Doki was the one who was most over in this match.
Yeah, definitely. They love him in Sapporo.
But people generally love Doki. I think not everyone understands how popular Doki is just because he doesn't get the chances, so you don't see it as often.
No, he stopped carrying the chrome bar around as well. And
you can't be a somewhat good guy if you keep knocking people out.
But like he's lost the edge. That he can be a heel if he needs to be. But
definitely.
But he's not. He's lost the edge he had in Suzuki Gun, and that's kind of made him even more popular now.
People now feel like they're allowed to like him.
Yeah, they're allowed to like him. I mean, like, even when he was in Suzuki Gun, they loved him in Kurikan Hall. They adored him. It's like, they love him there. because he's a grown worker. Like all of the guys they see at Kurikan Hall working small indie shows that, like, you know, like when JTO do a big show there, or Glate when they do a big show there, or 666, they love those guys that grind away on them indie shows forever and ever and ever just to get one main event. And they love those guys. They can see the talent in, and they can see are gonna go somewhere. And Taichi's one of those guys. You know, he's one of them. He's a Kurikan Hall guy. You know, in the same way Yoshihashi's a Kurikan Hall guy, even though he's kind of like the traditional company man, salary man wrestler. Taichi isn't. Dookie isn't that. But he is like a grafter and a grinder, and they really appreciate him there. And Sapporo as well. And I can see, in some ways, he's more over than SANADA is. You know, as a guy in that faction, because fans genuinely have affection for him.
Yeah, I also feel like it's the Desperado effect, where people understand that they probably deserve more than they get.
Yeah.
So they start compensating by loving extra much, you know?
Yeah.
I know it works that way for me. If I feel like someone isn't getting what they deserve, I make sure that they know that I think they're awesome.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Shall we go on to the next one?
Yep.
Taichi defeated Shingo Takagi in my second favorite match of this particular card. Because this was... they've wrestled each other an awful lot in the last 3 years. Obviously, they had the big feud of the KOPW Championship, but it's enhanced what they do. I will talk about this with Naito and SANADA, where it has definitely not enhanced what they do. Like the familiarity has moved their match quality forward, and they seem to make each other better each time they wrestle. And it's reflected in the cage match users 8.0. This was the best match on the card according to the cage match guys, which I think I would say the Dookie and Takahashi one was better, but that's more to my taste. Whereas Taichi and Shingo was very big men slapping meat kind of match, which is nothing wrong with that. I do like a match like that every once in a while. But this was just exceptionally good wrestling, and it was also the match with perhaps the least on the line. They're both made men.
Excuse you?
Well, I mean, apart from they have to delete your YouTube channel.
Exactly.
Mess. I don't think Shingo's deleting his YouTube channel because
but Taichi told him not to.
Taichi said he didn't have to. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But they wrestle each other like they're mates having a wrestling match. And,
yeah.
And I think this is the thing: is it's just much more. They just get better with age, these two, and therefore, you know, their matches do as well. So this is probably one of the better matches they've had, even though they've had some right barnstormers down the years. And kind of wets your whistle for New Japan Cup, doesn't it? If these two meet in the New Japan Cup, this would be amazing again. So yeah, it's kind of like, it makes you want to see more. So whereas other matches on the card, maybe you want to see much less. So yes, your thoughts?
Well, you said that there wasn't much at stake, but I disagree, because if Taichi had removed his YouTube channel, where was I supposed to watch all the Just Five Guys stuff? I mean, he gives me footage of SANADA smiling, and you want to take that away from me? No.
Well, yes, okay. No worries. I have not yet got into New Japan's YouTube channels because I've got too much stuff on YouTube I watch already.
You're missing out. No, it's mostly Taichi playing games, Taichi talking to his chat, and on some days he takes his camera along to like photo shoots, or you know, when they did the commercials for Doki's hair thing and the vinegar, he took a camera along to that. So it's just I enjoy watching those guys have fun together.
Yeah.
And SANADA smiles an awful lot in those videos. So if people were to watch them, they would never call him stoic and cold ever again. So, but all joking aside, I enjoy this match because it's two people who are equally over. Sometimes you watch a match and it's like, this is unfair. Like the entire crowd is against you. But these guys are both equally popular, and they're both really good at what they do. So there's no edge to either of them, so it's made for a really good match, and it also means that you don't go into it expecting a certain outcome. And I thought I was watching and I thought about their positions. Like Taichi, I would classify as a second in command in his faction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Shingo, I usually would have put second in command in LIJ.
Mm-hmm.
But since the last couple of days, Tsuji is being called after Shingo. Did you notice that?
Yeah, well, I mean, he does the roll call based on like when they joined LIJ, doesn't he?
Not the roll call. It's
No.
the when they come out.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah.
It's Bushi, then Hiromu,
Yeah.
and usually it would be Tsuji, Shingo, Naito.
Yeah.
But now it's Shingo, Tsuji, Naito.
Intriguing.
And you could say like, oh, that's because Tsuji has the big match, but these matches are all supposed to be on the same page, right? On the same level.
Yeah.
And it's not like Tsuji had a match for a title.
No.
Because
Intriguing.
that could explain like why he was called after, but no, there's no reason for it. It's just that they decided to do it.
Intriguing.
So that made me think about positions and how Shingo would look at Tsuji and what that means. New Japan is directly saying Tsuji has moved up. Tsuji is coming for Naito, not just literally, but also in the
pecking order.
They're being in the pecking order.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting. Last comment on this match. There was a shot of Taichi pausing in front of Okada. Because at this point, Okada has joined the commentary table.
Yes.
And Taichi...
Please, come sit with us whilst the entire roster roasts you for the afternoon. Yes.
and Taichi, he stopped in front of Okada. And I made the tweet that Taichi was saying, like, well, goodbye, I guess. I'll put a lot of guys over while you're gone. And I don't think it's that, because I know that they have a lot of history. Okada and Taichi used to be really close, and Okada when he was a baby, used to sleep in Taichi's house and eat with his mother and stuff like that. So I'm assuming they're still friends to some degree. But it just made me laugh to think about that. And the irony in the fact that Taichi, of all people, is now a building block for the entire company, and Okada is leaving.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
There we go. Very true. The old Japan guy is actually in charge. Yeah.
The go away Taichi guy.
Well, did you hear the beginning of this match? There was actually a chant of "Let's go Taichi" from the crowd.
Yeah.
Wow. How times have changed. Let us move on to the hair versus hair match that Christy was so looking forward to.
Yeah. Good times were had by all.
Yota Tsuji defeated Yuya Uemura in a match that was alright. It wasn't great. And it's like two guys who've not really had an awful lot of serious main event experience. It was perfectly fine. Could have been better, but equally I kind of think that I'm getting familiarity breeding contempt here a little bit. They've wrestled each other an awful lot, and I think they might have run out of ideas, and that's why this match wasn't perhaps as crisp as it could be. But then it became a match of endurance, which means it doesn't have to be as inventive, which was good. I like that bit. On one hand, Yuya Uemura losing is the obvious thing to do because he got the big win at Wrestle Kingdom, so it kind of evens them up for down the line. But equally, Uemura is the one guy out of the four new guys I really enjoyed. And now you're telling me that he needs to start over again because my enjoying him was wrong.
It's like Naruto all over again.
It's like, right, so every guy you get that I like, you're going to change into a way that I don't like. I And now it's like, oh, for God's sake, just leave people alone.
I don't think they're going to change
No, but
the
it
way
is
he
just,
wrestles, though.
I think it was partly that I think that Chris and Walker lent in a little too hard into the renewal deal. And I was like, yeah, do we have to go there? Because I kind of like your humor as he is. Please don't do this. So it was, yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I did offer Christy the opportunity to do a greatest hair versus hair matches show, which she declined because she thought it'd be too harrowing. And I said I'd offer.
Don't do that to me.
No, so I said I would
That's
offer it to John
cool.
Dinsdale as he feels nothing. And having talked to John a couple of weeks ago, he went, yeah.
I'm too emotional.
Yes. So yeah. So me and John will get to that at some point in the future. We will do a greatest of hair versus hair matches. I think it's probably going to have not the Lucha Libre on it because there'll be a lot of Lucha Despasta. I can never pronounce it. Lucha Espasta bet matches. Mask versus mask, hair versus hair versus mask, etc. But yes, this was the actual match itself didn't tear trees down, but did the job. And the result I'm kind of annoyed by, but not as much as annoyed by the previous day's stuff, even though, my guy lost his hair. What's your thoughts on this one?
I have a lot of thoughts.
I thought you would do, to be honest with
ready.
you. This is both your worst nightmare and something you will enjoy very much.
Yeah. Yeah. And also something I can see why they did it. So, first of all, this is one of the matches I got spoiled on because I couldn't watch the second day live because I had to go to the stables. So I came back and I just checked my mentions, and someone spoiled the result of this one.
Yeah.
And then I saw lots of negative comments calling it horrible and terrible, and it was boring, and I was like, oh God. So I went into this match thinking this is going to be awful. Like, the match is going to be awful. My guy is going to lose his hair. And then I didn't hate it. I went into it expecting something terrible, and I thought this isn't that. I'm not sure what you guys are all complaining about. Because the comments I saw, it was boring and it stayed in the ring and they should have done more. And I'm like, that's the story though. The story is that Yuya wants New Japan to change in his image as the wrestling guy who wrestles in the ring. And he wants to beat Tsuji using those things.
Yeah.
And Tsuji, meanwhile, wants to beat Yuya at the things he's good at. But also, they both want to use the basics because that's the story. Young Lion versus Young Lion.
Yeah.
So why would they use huge moves and run out of the ring and throw each other against the wall when the story is Young Lion versus Young Lion? Young Lions are never going to be able to do that because they're not allowed. You can't leave the ring. What do you mean?
I understand your logic. However, I'm not sure they executed it well enough for it to come off the way that they intended it to.
Maybe, I don't know, because I thought that's been the story the entire time. So maybe because I went into it expecting that story, it didn't bother me. And also because I don't see this as the culmination of their storyline. I see this as the beginning. And if you start with like chairs and chainsaws and blood, then where are you going to go at the very end of the story?
I know, I understand what I think as well. The trouble is, hair versus hair has very different connotations in different places around the world. Like in the United States, I don't want to say North America because in Mexico it's different to what it is in the US. In the US and Canada, it's a humiliation to lose your hair. And I suppose this was kind of like that in this particular sense, but in the US it's a humiliation. In Mexico they do it because it's supposed to be a death match. It's supposed to be bloody and awful, and the final thing to settle a score in a feud, and it's big money, but it's also like in the US it's there to draw money and the humiliation of someone having their head shaved. In Mexico it's there to draw money as in the sense of, it's a blood feud thing. It's absolutely, the way it's supposed to be. And if you look at it in Japan, traditionally, it has been the same way, that like the be all and the end all is hair versus hair. And, the great hair versus hair matches in Japan have tended to be in women's wrestling, and someone's going to lose 7 pints of blood and it's going to be horrific, because that's kind of like the level of intensity a Kamakiri deathmatch is supposed to have. And this wasn't that. And it wasn't what a Mexican match was, and it wasn't what an American match was. It was kind of its own thing. And I think that's perhaps where the disconnect is, because it's not based on things that have come before.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue, is that people were going into it expecting something they weren't going to get, because that wasn't the story.
No.
Because I feel like this is the beginning.
Yeah.
Not the end. And a lot of hair versus hair are the combination of a blood feud, of like, we hate each other and this is going to be the end. You're the victor, I'm the loser. Whereas I see this is going to be something that creates the storylines for the next couple of years. It's going to completely change Yuya and how he sees himself and how his character evolves. And it's going to be what they come back to in the next couple of years. So if you go into it expecting this to be the end, to be the big one, then you're going to be disappointed, because that wasn't the story.
No.
The story was that they were one of them was going to be forced to go back to Young Lion days. And what is Young Lion days? The very beginning, not the end.
Yeah. I mean, there is an argument to say that then perhaps there shouldn't have been a hair versus hair match, but then again, you can't tell that story unless it is.
The hair versus hair was the literal how do you say that? The literal personification of forcing someone to go back to Young Lion.
Yeah, and I don't think fans necessarily understood it the way that in that context, because that's not how hair versus hair matches have traditionally been done.
Yeah.
So that's the issue, I think, is the disconnect for a lot of fans. But I think, and as well as like the story that I just didn't get into the story they were trying to tell as far as the moves were concerned, because it just ended up being a bit plotty and slow.
Yeah, and what I saw that, and I saw most of the match was Yuya wrestling his style.
Yeah.
Tsuji trying to counter him in the same style and eventually getting mad and kick him in the face. And that just continues the story for Tsuji for me, where he thinks he's just as good as Yuya is, and when he's reminded that he's not, he leans into the kicking, the spear, the
petulant kind of striking. Yeah. No, I can understand that.
Yeah. He wanted to try and out wrestle Yuya, who's better than him at that.
Yeah.
And he had to recognize that if he wanted to win. And it was a story of the basics. Like what Yuya does is stuff a Young Lion learns. What Tsuji does, that's not stuff a Young Lion necessarily learns. They're not going to go out there and teach you the spear or how to kick someone in the face, literally, directly.
No. He is a much higher level player of wrestling, different style of wrestling, really.
He is a different style. It just completely felt like that story to me. And if you didn't follow that story, then I guess it would feel disconnected. Which is why I love paying attention to stories, because it felt like it meant something. Also because I saw the interview that the two of them did.
Yeah.
Did you watch that interview?
No, I didn't know.
Okay. The most interesting thing about it was that it was completely a contrast between the two.
Yeah.
Like one would say A and the other would reply with B, basically. Including that Tsuji was like, New Japan is going to die if I lose my hair. He literally said this. If I lose this, New Japan will die. And Yuya responded with, Tsuji is being silly. New Japan is going to be fine if he loses his hair. Like that kind of thing. And at the same time, Yuya said, what was it? Yuya said, I'm going to rescue New Japan. I don't need anyone else. And he also said, I don't need Tsuji. If Tsuji leaves, it'll be fine because I'll be here. Whereas Tsuji was all like, well, I'm going to be there, Yuya's going to be there, Shota's going to be there. And he listed all the guys that were going to be there for New Japan's future. And they were completely contrasted on every question. And I like that. That spells to me like they thought about this interview.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to say? Okay, I'll say the opposite. And it just says so much about their characters as well. Yeah, sorry. I a lot of thoughts about a match that a lot of people didn't like, but I liked it because it was a storytelling match. So
yeah, I mean, I like matches with stories, but it just from my point of view is just that as a standalone match, no, it wasn't great. It was fine, but that's the thing. It's just like I think sometimes they get too wrapped up in the story. There's too much story in this match, and that makes sense from my point of view. Of like, you could be a bit more direct about it and not be so long.
I agree with that, but also they are the match right before the big match. They couldn't really go all out.
No, they couldn't go all out. That's true, but then again, that's kind of like again getting booked into a corner. You know, it's like, why not make this main event then? You don't have to put the IWGP Heavyweight Championship match in there. You need to because of the ending that we got.
Yeah, but then what do you put on the SANADA Naito match?
Yeah, this is the thing. It's just I like the concept of what they were trying to do with this show, but because of the night before, it kind of just scuppered anything they were going to do on this show in so many ways. And I think this show was a lot better than the previous day's show. But and it had some great wrestling matches on it, and they could afford to have this match because it wasn't great, but it was sandwiched between other matches. But then the main event was not as good as this match was, and this match wasn't that great. So you kind of had a deflating end to this show. Whereas the previous show started off well and went downhill. This had started off hot, and then started off well and then went downhill seriously. This just kind of petered out as a show.
I think people would have felt very differently about this match and this day if it had been reversed. If this has been
the first show, yeah. So yeah, but then again, they wouldn't have sent the fans home happy if they'd done it that way around.
But I think.
Well, I mean, suppose they would have done because the Nemeth support would have been okay. But there's not a lot of emotional baggage on that show.
I think a lot of people went into day 2 already cranky and seeing the negative and everything. Because I think this would have been a 7 out of 10 match on most shows.
Yeah.
But now because people were like, no, New Japan sucks. It was like 4 out of 10.
I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was, but I don't think it was. I think it was too intricate for what they needed to do.
Yeah, I just think the benefit of the doubt was lost for everyone.
Yeah, that was the issue. Yeah. Anyway, main event time. Tetsuya Naito versus SANADA again, and I can understand. Yes, it's been faction versus faction, but this match was not good. It wasn't terrible, but it was nowhere near as good as the match they had at Wrestle Kingdom. And you start to figure out, like, why did we bother? Because SANADA's not ready to challenge again yet, really. The 90 days rematch clause doesn't really work in New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's never been a feature of the whole thing. And this was predicated on SANADA saving Naito in the main event at Wrestle Kingdom so he could have his roll call. But part of me says is like, then perhaps one should have tried harder in this match. And even Naito was saying, look, I'm not wrestling this guy again if I can possibly help it. Does he have to be in the New Japan Cup? New Japan disagreed with that, which means SANADA has now got another chance to challenge for Naito, which I am. As a SANADA fan, I like SANADA, but I do not want to see him wrestle Tetsuya Naito again at least for a year, please. Because there's just been too much contact. And it's difficult because they've got styles that are so similar, because they're both like, you know, super smooth technical wrestlers, which is normally, under normal circumstances, perfect, but I don't think they actually match in the sense of, how can I put this? Styles make fights, and Naito works better from underneath, and he doesn't feel like he's wrestling from underneath when he's wrestling SANADA, because he's the more experienced, better well-rounded wrestler who has embraced the chaos, and that's what makes him great. Whereas SANADA is very, 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 very good, but doesn't embrace the chaos, so therefore never quite fulfills his potential. That's my thoughts on this particular match. What's your thoughts on this, Christy?
I like this match, but I get what you mean. I think
Yeah.
my issue with this pairing is that Naito is the worst thing could ever happen to SANADA as a character.
Yeah.
Because Naito points out everything SANADA is not good at,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You've got the most popular guy in the company who is telling viewers he is not good on the microphone. He's a terrible champion. He doesn't show emotion. He doesn't this. He doesn't that. It's basically confirming what a lot of naysayers already think about SANADA.
Yeah.
So you have the top guy saying, yes, you're right in not liking this guy, not trusting this guy, not thinking this guy is good enough, while at the same time New Japan wants to build SANADA.
Mm.
So that's why I think Naito is not a right fit for SANADA, and that's why I don't think continuing this feud is good for SANADA.
No.
I think you're doing him a disservice by continuing to put him against Naito.
Yeah. And I also think
just at the very beginning of the match, Red Shoes does this applause meter.
I noticed the other referees have started doing it now as well.
And
yes.
I talked about this on my Twitter. If I were SANADA, I would want to kick the guys in the face for doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
You're basically showing the world that SANADA, a guy New Japan wants to be over and wants to be a face, is not over.
Mm.
Is not a favorite.
No.
And
He's
no
not
one
even
is
the most popular
against
guy in his
Naito.
own faction.
No.
That's...
But I think it's doing so much harm to SANADA's image to continue having him feud against Naito.
Mm-hmm.
There's not many people who can stand up to Naito. And a character whose biggest character, what do you call it? Character trait is that he's stoic and cool and doesn't respond. Just doesn't mesh well with Naito.
No.
Because Naito's just going to overpower him completely.
Yeah. That's the thing. Is like, you can get away with it once, but you're not going to go away with it twice.
No, it feels like you're pushing SANADA down even more if you continue to do this. Because a guy like Okada could, because Okada is cool and he's above Naito.
Yeah.
And he backs up everything he claims. But if you don't give SANADA the wins, then it's just a guy who's not responding to the guy who's better than him, who's telling everyone he's better than him, and who's poking at all your insecurities.
Yeah. It doesn't, just doesn't fit.
And I just feel bad for SANADA because I don't think this is doing him any favors in the eyes of the fans.
No, you're right. And
people are already going to not like those qualities of him. And then you have the most popular guy saying, yes, you're right.
Yeah, I'm not burning to see SANADA to go after anyone right now. Not because he's bad. I think he's a great wrestler, and I actually like him as a wrestler. But there's no impetus there to move him forward. It's like there was in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, Arthur Dent ends up on a planet where there's no anima, everyone just does stuff because they do stuff. So they play netball, and they can't understand why he gets angry because they've lost by 3 points. Because they're like, well, they play better us, and so they're better than. Well, they are better than us, so they're going to beat us. So that's fine. And he can't understand why they can't get angry because everyone works in logic and with no passion because that's the way that planet works. And that's SANADA in the sense of, why are you still wrestling if you don't seem to be enjoying yourself? If you see what I mean.
Well,
And you don't seem to get upset when you lose, and you don't seem to you get upset when you lose, but you don't seem to get that particularly happy when you win.
Yeah, but I think that's the character.
Yeah.
That's what people are supposed to understand about SANADA. It's just that it's hard to understand when you have this guy telling you that it's wrong.
Yeah.
And I also think my issue with this pairing is that there's no end of the line. There's no goal that they are reaching.
Well, no, I think they reached their goal. The goal was the roll call at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah. But
arguably, that didn't have to be SANADA. It could have been anyone.
Yeah. But also their dynamic. Because during Wrestle Kingdom, I felt like, wow, Naito's finally understood that there is something to appreciate about SANADA.
Yeah.
He thanked him.
Yeah.
But then in this match, we're back to square one. We're back to spitting in his face and mocking him and talking shit about him to everyone. Like there's no progression in their relationship.
No, there's nothing's moved on.
Nothing's moved. It's like we had a moment.
No.
And then Naito reverted back to what he was before that moment.
Yeah, he's learned nothing. SANADA has achieved nothing, and we've moved on.
And that was what could have made SANADA. Like, Naito doesn't have to completely respect him, but like, be less of a dick towards him. For helping him, for saving him, for giving him the gifts that he's always wanted, that roll call. But he hasn't.
Yeah.
And we are, as viewers, always on Naito's side.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because he's the big shiny thing in the ring.
Because he's the big shiny thing who's always right, who's the most popular, who can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
So that's just as a SANADA fan, that's my main issue with this. And I never expected to have this much of an issue with a feud between SANADA and Naito, because that's always been something I was looking forward to. But I just think Naito, I don't know if it's intentionally or just a result of his character, but he just completely destroys SANADA. And I don't see an upside to this because even growth gets reverted back to the status quo.
Yes, and it would be. I think an awful lot of it as well would be if they were putting in blistering 5-star matches, you wouldn't mind so much. But there's not that there either. It's not Naito can't do those things anymore like he used to, and SANADA isn't necessarily the opponent to do them with. But there could be so much more in the in-ring content to balance that out, and SANADA could have so much more fire to balance that out. But he doesn't really. I'm not saying he hasn't got babyface fire. He has, but it's not as. It's lacking. It's also lacking in intensity.
But that's also a Naito problem because you're never going to outdo Naito at that. At being fired, at being popular. You could be as fiery as you want to be, and the crowd is still going to choose Naito.
Yeah.
So I just think Naito is a terrible opponent for him.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I think I was hoping it had run its course last month, but apparently not. And so, yeah. But there you go. But we did finish the show with the roll call, and then Naito invited Okada into the ring to do the LIJ fist bump, and Okada was like, "Are you sure? Have you not got something planned? I don't trust you 1 inch."
I took a screenshot of that look on his face, and I'm like, Okada's learned in the last 14 years not to trust a single thing Naito suggests.
So Naito kicked him in the guts and then went into the LIJ pose on the mat because he's Naito. And
no, but first he did he offered the LIJ fist bump to Okada. And
Yes.
the moment Okada was like, he was like, am I going to do it?
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah.
he did it, and just a second before they were supposed to touch, Naito attacked him and spit in his face and did
Yes.
the Naito thing.
Yes. And then as he went down the aisle, he did say thank you and put his fist up to him one more time because he had to end on the right note.
Yeah, and Okada put his fist up, and
Yeah.
Naito did it back to him.
Yes. So yeah.
That's as much respect as Naito's going to give you, unless
Yeah.
you're Bushi.
He did have Naito did have a massive smile on his face because he realised he's kind of inherited the castle at this particular point for as long as
he can,
as long as his knees hold out.
Yeah.
He's essentially the money man in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and how long his knees will hold out is a different question entirely. And let's not start talking about his neck, shall we? But
or his eyes.
Or his eyes. Is there any body parts he hasn't got? His arms seem to be okay, but yes, that's about it.
Well, can you trust a wrestler to be honest about that?
No,
He could
not.
still have an
Or
injury
specifically
somewhere.
that particular wrestler who would literally die for his fans. So what can you do?
Yeah, I also saw that people were saying that SANADA's still injured.
That would probably explain an awful lot of the slow movement in that particular match and its disjointedness, which is he's not really a SANADA thing, to be honest.
Well, he said otherwise in his backstage comments, but you can't trust a wrestler, so.
No, exactly not. And SANADA's how long has he been doing this now? 15 years. He's 36 and he's been doing this for 16 years.
He does a lot of jumping in and out of the ring and moonsaults and stuff like that.
And dare we not say that his mentor Keiji Muto is on his second knee replacements?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. Well, that wraps up the entire show. We'll have all 2 shows, and if you've had enough of us 2 moaning, please come and join us next week. We'll be looking at Glate, where me and Marcus will have an hour and a half of positivity to help things swing along there. In the meantime, where can we find you on the internet, Christy?
You can find me at Smark Infested if TVSI hasn't destroyed that. So if it's gone, then they got me. But as long as it's still up, Smark Infested.
There you go. You can find me at Sheriff Lone Star on Twitter, at Sheriff Lone Star TX on Instagram. I'm on Mastodon, Sheriff Lone Star TX as well. You can find the show, Trooping the Show, on Twitter and on Instagram, and we're on Facebook and on Patreon. We keep Trooping the Show free forever for everyone. Like we said, next week, me and Marcus will be looking at Glate. I am going to try and get hold of John and nail him down to a day off somewhere so we can actually record a podcast. And we'll talk about some historical stuff. And of course, in a couple of weeks' time, we will be going back to Today with the New Japan series, the New Japan Club series. And maybe Christy will join us there if she has the time.
If I have the time. There's a lot of shows being run while I'm at work, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, that's true. In the meantime, take care. Speak to you soon, and we'll see you next week. Bye.